Chapter 502. Lu Kuan carefully sneaked for hundreds of miles and found that no core formation stage cultivators of the Red Refining sect were following him. He was relieved. Listening to the conversation between the two Red Refining sect disciples, their sect is holding a competition between Foundation establishment stage cultivators. I guess the elders of the core formation stage are busy with this. There is nothing special about these two disciples. They were easily killed by me. They didn't send out any distress signals. Right now, Lu Kuan's true combat ability was almost the same as that of an early core formation cultivator. It was just that his mana hadn't evolved yet. Against two average late Foundation establishment cultivators, under a sneak attack, killing two Foundation establishment cultivators wasn't difficult at all. What he was more worried about was that a cultivator above the intermediate core formation stage would catch up. In this case, he would have to use all his strength to activate the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle to escape because his spiritual power was limited. After all, the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle was not the Silver Dragon flying boat. If he wanted to activate the maximum speed, he must have the spiritual power of the core formation stage. He couldn't activate the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle to the speed of the late core formation stage alone. Therefore, these hundreds of miles were completely run by the strength of his physical body. Although the speed was much slower than the speed of the core formation stage, ordinary core formation stage cultivators couldn't lock onto him. Since the Red Refining sect is busy with the competition, why don't I take the opportunity to get more blood-clotting grass or other resources? If my deduction is correct, after Qing Tian and the others enter the great perfection of the body tempering stage, they will also use the blood-clotting grass to refine blood marrow powder and engrave the bone spirit controlling array to increase the probability of promotion. According to the last news, even if the Red Refining sect lost Tianrenjie, they have already developed the Red Refining demonic technique. Then they must be doing it secretly to prevent the people of the top 10 sects from discovering anything. If I make a move, they will have some concerns. The more he thought about it, the more Lu Kuan was moved. The reason why he was hesitant was that Xiao Jin was not by his side. When he separated from Zhu Xiaofeng, in order to ensure their smooth evacuation, he asked Xiao Jin to follow them to prevent being followed. After thinking about it, Lu Kuan finally turned around and sneaked towards the Red Refining sect's market. In the internal competition, except for the high-level cultivators, those disciples with strength and background were all in the Red Refining sect. Those who were still performing ordinary tasks outside were all disciples with average strength who were not valued by the sect. Lu Kuan had been in the market of the Red Refining sect before, using his Jedon-level spiritual awareness to perceive that there was no aura of the Jedon stage cultivator, which made his actions safer. If you want to blame someone, blame it on the fact that some of you have started to cultivate the Crimson Refining demonic technique. In the future, you are destined to be the mortal enemy of body cultivators. Now that I am in the dark and have not been discovered by you, I will strike first and gain the upper hand. At the very least, I can slow down your progress. Lu Kuan sneered in his heart, readjusted his spiritual power to the early stage of the Foundation stage, and then returned to the original road and flew to the location of the Red Refining sect market. The Scarlet Refining sect did not know that when someone cultivated the Scarlet Refining Devil technique, they had already set up an enemy hidden in the dark. Half a day later, on a huge square in the valley of the Red Refining sect, there was a transparent light shield. There were two cultivators in the early stage of the Foundation stage who were fighting fiercely. All kinds of magic tools and spells were coming and going. They all showed fierce expressions as if the opponent was the enemy who killed their father. Nephew Li, these two little guys have a ruthless force. Every move wants to kill the opponent. I think it's very suitable to cultivate the Scarlet Refining Devil technique. What do you think? On the high platform in front of the square, the old man with a withered face sitting in the first seat said with a trace of appreciation in his eyes. Sitting next to the old man were the Lee brothers. The eldest brother of the Lee family nodded and said, "Uncle is right. You should know that the Scarlet Refining Devil Technique is the purest devil technique, and in the future, you will often kill cultivators of the same level to collect blood essence. Only such a disciple who is ruthless and doesn't hesitate to make a move can reach a higher realm." The second brother of the Lee family also nodded and said, "Moreover, the disciples of our sect have all made a blood oath to the Oath Stone. It's impossible for them to betray the sect. For so many years in the demon's den, although many disciples have fallen in the regular competition, the remaining disciples have all cultivated to the middle stage of the foundation stage and above. There are even 2 who have completed the foundation stage. As long as they collect enough blood and food, the core formation stage is basically stable." This old man with a yellow face was the only nascent soul stage elder of the Red Refining sect. The old man with a withered face said with satisfaction, "It seems that it was the right decision to pull that ancient devil cultivator into the sect. According to my speculation, he should have been locked up in a cave on the Demon Island by the ancient cultivators. Tion Renjia accidentally broke into the cave and was taken over by this devil cultivator's avatar. To be able to let the avatar survive for so many years, it's either because the Demon Island can delay the loss of lifespan, or this guy has a strange secret technique that can keep the avatar for so many years. It can be seen that his cultivation was at least above the nascent soul stage." The eldest brother of the Lee family showed a worried expression and said, "Martial uncle, can the Oath Stone really restrain him?" The withered old man showed a confident smile and said, "This Oath Stone was refined by the ancient cultivators. According to the ancient records left by our sect's seniors, even soul formation stage cultivators can't get rid of the restriction of this Oath Stone." Then he looked at the 2 with a faint smile and said, "I know that he restricts you in all aspects, but he's powerful and helped you transform your cultivation methods. You should listen to his arrangements in the demon's den." The Lee brothers nodded silently. In the past few decades, their strength had been steadily improving. The guy in the depths of the demon's den's cultivation was also advancing rapidly. Just the other party's eyes let them know that they were no match for him. Just as they were talking, a talisman emitting a light blue light appeared outside. It shot toward the high platform and fell into the hands of a middle-aged man in the early stage of the core formation stage. The man glanced at it slightly and his expression changed greatly. This scene fell into the eyes of the nascent soul stage elder and the Lee brothers. The nascent soul stage ancestor of the Red Refining sect immediately asked, "Martial nephew Ma, what happened?" When the middle-aged man heard the nascent soul stage ancestor's question, his face turned pale and he said, "Martial uncle, a mysterious cultivator intercepted and killed the disciples who just returned from the Thousand Treasures Tower. He took away the blood coagulation grass and many refining materials that the Thousand Treasures Tower traded this time. It happened so suddenly that even fellow Taoist Huang Fei, who was with the 2 disciples, didn't notice and didn't have time to stop him. This communication talisman just now was sent by fellow Taoist Huang. He has already chased after the enemy and left magic power marks along the way." The nascent soul stage elder's eyes flashed fiercely. "Core formation stage cultivator, which blind fool dares to behave atrociously in my Red Refining sect? Do you think I, too, am easy to bully?" After saying that, the elder's magic power surged and he was about to shoot out. At this time, the eldest brother of the Lee family immediately said, "Martial uncle, if you leave the mountain gate, you will definitely attract the attention of the 10 great sections. It's better for us brothers to go. The opponent doesn't dare to fight fellow Taoist Huang Fei. His strength won't exceed the early stage of the core formation stage. We can completely deal with him." The nascent soul stage elder thought for a moment and sat down. He sighed and said, "Martial nephew is right. This is a special time. It's not appropriate for me to make a move. Then the 2 of you will go. You too should be able to catch up with the late stage of the core formation stage if you join forces. Chapter 503. In the air 100 miles away from the market of the Red Refining Sect, a cold-faced man wearing a white robe silently looked at the empty sky in front of him. His eyes flashed with surprise. This guy, what kind of aura concealing technique did he use to be able to suppress his aura below the core formation stage? While maintaining this level of magic power, he can still burst out with a speed above the core formation stage. After escaping from the range of my spiritual sense, I can no longer track his aura. If my perception is correct, his magic power is extremely pure lightning attribute magic power. Among the major sects of the Chu country, there are only a few lightning attribute core formation stage cultivators, but they are somewhat different from this person. However, his magic power aura, I seem to have encountered it somewhere before. Thinking of this, the cold-faced man frowned and pondered. As a core formation stage cultivator, he had the ability to remember everything he saw. Recalling was just sorting out the memories in his mind. Not long after, his eyes lit up. I remember now. Back then at the border of the southern marsh state, old you and I tracked a cultivator together. That cultivator's magic power was very similar to his, but his magic power was only at the foundation establishment stage. Back then, our Thousand Treasures Tower's demon token was snatched away by a core formation cultivator with lightning attribute mana. Could it be this person? Back then, old you and I were pursuing his disciple? The cold-faced man was a core formation stage cultivator of the Huang family behind the Thousand Treasures Tower, Huang Fei. Recalling the situation decades ago, he connected the culprit to the person he met today. That's not easy to investigate. The demon token of a core formation stage cultivator is either given to a descendant disciple or placed in the Abyss auction house for auction. It is said that after the last trip to the Demon Island, almost only the disciples of the 10 great sects were left. No, I still have to investigate later and start with the lightning attribute magic power. Just as Huang Fei was pondering, he suddenly raised his head and looked behind him. Such a fast escape light. Middle core formation stage cultivation. His magic power aura is a bit similar to the Li brothers. Huang Fei sensed a streak of light 5 kilometers away. He hesitated for a moment before waiting on the spot. Not long after, the black streak of light appeared in front of Huang Fei, revealing 2 old men with similar faces. So it really is the Li brothers. The aura of the 2 cultivation methods has changed. I almost couldn't recognize them. Li Clan's eldest brother frowned and said, "Let's not talk about this for now. Fellow Taoist Huang, since you've stopped, what about the guy who killed our disciples?" Huang Fei sighed. It's a long story. As they listened to Huang Fei's description, the frowns on the Li brothers' faces deepened. At the same time, on a nearby mortal road, a burly man was helping a mortal caravan move goods. He was carrying 2 sacks that were half the height of a human, and his strength was twice that of the laborers around him. Sensing the envious gazes of the laborers around him and the disdainful gazes of the mortal guards, the strong man revealed a faint smile. 1 month later, on the demon spirit island in the depths of the chaotic ocean, a burst of laughter came from a rather exquisite palace. "Junior Marshal brother, only someone with your level of cultivation can fool a core formation cultivator and scam the Red Refining School once. In that case, the blood-clotting grass collected by Junior Marshal brother should be enough." In the palace there were 4 men sitting. They were Lu Kuan, Qin Yushu, Zhu Xiaofeng, and Lu Xiao. The laughter came from Zhu Xiaofeng's mouth. The other 2 also revealed smiles. It was clear that they approved of Lu Kuan's actions. If it was 100 years ago, they might have some conflict. After all, the way the Yang clan's disciples conducted themselves was too pedantic for demonic cultivators. They wouldn't kill so decisively. Then, after experiencing the calamity of the Yang clan's extermination and thousands of miles of escape, In addition to being ambushed by various cultivators, they were now on guard against everyone except for their own disciples. As long as someone threatened them, they wouldn't hesitate to act. After collecting the blood-clotting grass, Junior Marshall Brother will be in seclusion for a long time to prepare for the breakthrough of the Bone Treasure stage. However, Senior Marshall Brother Zhu, is Senior Marshall Sister Du really not going to return to the Demon Spirit Island? Lu Kuan's expression was somewhat worried. Hearing this, Zhu Xiaofeng sighed and said, "It's not like you don't know Junior Marshall Sister's temper. She likes lively places, and she's also worried about the treasure pavilion. If she decided to stay, the three of us couldn't persuade her at all. After all, Junior Marshall Sister isn't much younger than me." Qin Yushu said with some melancholy. Senior Marshall Sister Du asked two Senior Marshall Brothers to join hands and place a restriction on her. As long as she wants it, her soul will be destroyed. Senior Marshall Sister is preventing our secret from being leaked. Sai, Lu Kuan and the others were somewhat melancholy. Although Du Ruoqiao would continue to cultivate and try to break through with her remaining lifespan, her aptitude was still there. Coupled with the fact that the second breakthrough was even more difficult, the probability of her forming a core again was extremely low. Now that she did this, it was obvious that she wanted to use her remaining strength. Since this is the case, Junior Marshall Brother has to prepare even more. I must break through this huge bottleneck of body cultivation. Lu Kuan's eyes flashed with determination. Senior Marshall Brothers, there's no time to lose. Junior Marshall Brother will go into seclusion now. With that, Lu Kuan's body flashed with a purple light and flew towards his cave. After a few flashes, he disappeared from Qin Yushu and the others' eyes. Zhu Xiaofeng looked at Lu Kuan's back and muttered, "Junior Marshall Brothers, I entered the core formation stage so late. My aptitude is far from Marshall Uncle Niez. The nascent soul stage is very unlikely for me. After Junior Apprentice Brother successfully breaks through, I will go out and find some suitable disciples to fill up the ranks of the next generation of disciples. Junior Apprentice Brother Qin and Junior Apprentice Brother Lu Shao are still young, you should spend more time cultivating. Senior Marshall Brother Zhu." Zhu Xiaofeng waved his hand and said, "There's no need to say anything. It's decided. I'll go look for Panyan first. He's proficient in earth magic. Let's reconstruct the island first. Junior Apprentice Brother Qin, I'll teach you some basic cultivation techniques for your new disciple." With that, Zhu Xiaofeng turned into a ray of light and flew away, leaving behind Qin Yushu and Lu Shao, who were smiling bitterly. On the other side, after Lu Kuan returned to his cave, he threw out the storage bag in his hand. A pile of dark red herbs appeared. There were more than 100 of them. It was his harvest from this trip to the red refining sect. "Not only me, but the 5 of them will have enough in the future." Lu Kuan showed a satisfied expression. Next, he put these herbs aside and arranged a spirit-gathering formation in the cave. It seemed that he didn't plan to refine blood marrow powder for the time being. After a while, Lu Kuan arranged 2 spirit-gathering formations, one big and one small, inside and outside. This would maximize the spirit-gathering effect. Coupled with the rich spirit energy here, it could almost reach the spirit energy level of the Demon Island. If the cultivators of the 10 great sects of Chu found this island, they would definitely fight fiercely for it. After Lu Kuan finished laying down the array, he slowly took off all of his clothes, revealing his strong body. After reaching large success in viscera forging, Lu Kuan's body was actually smaller than before. His skin was slightly darker, and there was even a hint of luster to it. However, the most eye-catching thing was the 6 purple lightning seals around his body. Chapter 504. All magic treasures, except for some special functions and auxiliary magic treasures, are mainly based on the 5 elements, thus corresponding to all kinds of cultivators. When the attributes are compatible, this magic treasure can exert its greatest power. Body refining is like refining, the body and magic treasures are the same. Lu Kuan gently stroked the thunder seal on his arm, his eyes flashing with an inexplicable luster. The body tempering stage is just to polish the body to enough strength to accept stronger magic power. The next big stage is to refine the body into a magic treasure. The first step is to refine the hardest part of the body, which is the bone part, into a magic treasure. This is the bone treasure stage. However, the body is the body after all, unlike some heaven and earth treasures, which are blessed by nature and have their own 5 elements attributes. So I want to reflect the bone attribute. The only thing I can do is to compress the thunder seal into the depths of the bones. Let the bones produce acquired attributes. In the future, Lu Kuan's bones and even the entire body will be a powerful thunder attribute magic treasure. At that time, how terrifying will the power be? His eyes were shining with golden light, and he took out 2 jade slips. Although he was talking to himself, his tone was extremely excited. Senior brother Qin and I have spent a lot of effort and coincidentally condensed the thunder seal and the wind seal. Shue'er's ice seal is also gradually forming. These 2 jade slips describe the method of condensing the seal in detail. Of course, it is very difficult to condense the seal of a different attribute, but as a single attribute, we only need to slightly delete our technique chant and operation method, and it can completely become a single 5-element seal. This means that all body cultivators, after entering the bone treasure stage, the attributes of the bones they temper will be different. And according to my speculation, after the bone treasure stage, every body cultivator will walk on their own bone treasure path. Different attributes, single attributes, and even dual attributes will appear in the bone treasure stage. At that time, the immortal cultivation world will be the time for body cultivators to truly shine. And now I am going to open up such a path that no one has set foot on. Lu Kuan then looked at the several thunder seals on his body, and immediately sat cross-legged. When he condensed his lightning seal, although the lightning imprint appeared on the surface of his skin, the imprint actually condensed between his muscles and bones. If he wanted to compress this imprint onto his bones, then Lu Kuan would have to use the tyrannical lightning-attributed magic power within his body to draw it over. This was also the reason why Lu Kuan was pleasantly surprised by the magic power surging within his body after reaching the large success stage of viscera forging. Previously, when he first condensed the lightning stamp, his cultivation had regressed to the qi refining stage, which was the muscle refining stage. At that time, only the muscles contained mana, so the location of the first lightning stamp was in the muscles. After entering the later stages, his remaining lightning seals were gradually completed. The positions of these lightning seals, including the first lightning seal, slowly moved inwards as time passed. According to the description in the Shang Qing lightning controlling true chant, the lightning strike of traditional cultivators is condensed in the dantian, the place with the densest mana. This is because the lightning strike itself is the densest point of mana. Before my body was filled with mana, the core of my mana was in the muscles. But when I reached the treasure bone stage, all of the mana in my body would be in my bones. But to let the lightning strike be sucked in, I still need to do something. After finishing his thoughts, Lu Kuan first mobilized the mana in his lungs, which was closest to his right arm, and made it slowly rotate in a complicated path. As the mana rotated, the purple light in his lungs became more and more intense, and the mana in his lungs was quickly consumed. At the same time, Lu Kuan's face showed a painful expression, as if this method of operation was extremely painful for him. After a while, the eye-catching lightning seal on his right arm gradually faded, as if it had disappeared. Lu Kuan, who had been using the power of his divine sense to observe his body, discovered this, and the corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a smile. But just as the corner of his mouth rose, it was as if it pulled on a torn wound, and he painfully twitched. Damn it, I'm only simulating the aura of the lightning strike in my lungs, and my internal organs feel like they're in a pot of oil. But only by condensing an even more powerful lightning strike aura from the inside can I attract the lightning strike from the outside. Soon, the lightning strike that was originally in the muscles of his right arm gradually melted into his body. In addition to the mana in his internal organs, Lu Kuan's blood and bones were also rapidly circulating, guiding the direction of the lightning strike. If he didn't do this, the lightning strike would directly enter Lu Kuan's lungs. Lu Kuan was only simulating the aura of the lightning strike in his internal organs, and his lungs were already somewhat unable to withstand it. If the lightning strike really entered his internal organs and formed an internal organ imprint, his internal organs would definitely explode. After all, the physical imprint was completely related to the strength of the carrier. After about half an hour, the lightning imprint on Lu Kuan's right arm had disappeared without a trace. On the surface of his right arm's humerus, a new lightning imprint gradually formed. Lu Kuan slightly breathed a sigh of relief. When he stopped the mana in his lungs, he simultaneously injected a large amount of his physical body's mana into the humerus that flashed with the lightning strike. Boom! A thunderous sound appeared out of nowhere. Lu Kuan's right arm was wrapped in a thick bolt of lightning. Crackling, crackling, crackling. The lightning was spontaneously formed under the surging mana after the lightning strike was formed. However, this level of lightning attribute spell would only cause the surface of his arm to be slightly charred black. Haha, very good. The first bone lightning strike has been successfully resolved. Under the attraction of the imprint in the internal organs and the guidance of the physical body's mana, the new lightning strike is even more condensed than the previous one. The location is in the bone marrow cavity. As long as it is slightly stimulated, the entire arm bones will emit a strong lightning attribute aura. Feeling the mana consumption in his body, Lu Kuan's face slightly changed. I didn't expect that the imprint of the lightning strike in the internal organs would consume almost half of the internal organs' mana. It can be seen that the path of refining the internal organs into magic treasures is very long. Lu Kuan shook his head. Refining the internal organs into magic treasures was something he didn't dare to think about at all. After he fully recovered the mana in his body, he continued to condense the other lightning strike. The left arm's lightning strike was the same as the right arm's, but it was a bit simpler. Lu Kuan relied on his powerful consciousness to control the mana in his heart and left lung at the same time. Very quickly, the lightning strike was condensed in the depths of the bones in his right arm. After the lightning strike was engraved on both sides, the two huge lightning strikes that were exposed on the surface of his chest and back also became a bit dimmer. Clearly, they were also attracted by the aura of the internal organs. The lightning strike in the chest is condensed in the sternum, and the lightning strike in the back is condensed in the spine. These two lightning strikes have to be condensed almost simultaneously, which is not easy. The legs are easier. I'll start with the legs. Next, Lu Kuan spent a lot of time condensing the lightning strike in the legs again. With the mana of the large intestines, bladder, and other internal organs, although the lightning strike in the legs was bigger than the arms, it was still relatively easy for Lu Kuan. After his mana was fully recovered, he concentrated and thought for a while. Then, he began to condense the last two lightning strikes in the bone. These last two places obviously had to be condensed at the same time. Chapter 505. Fortunately, my divine sense isn't weak. Lu Kuan borrowed the power of his core formation level divine sense to split his mind into two, separately controlling the muscles in his chest and back to guide the two huge thunder seals. At the same time, Lu Kuan's entire body's powerful Li poured into his chest and back. Although the two thunder seals' rays of light entered his body, the resplendent purple rays of light became more and more dazzling under the turbulent flow of Li. Moreover, following the infusion of Li, the two thunder seals gradually became smaller. After spending half a day, they finally firmly landed on the sternum and spine, and Lu Kuan's tyrannical Fa Li was almost exhausted. At this time, Lu Kuan's upper arm, humerus, sternum, spine, and thigh, femur, bones all finished condensing the thunder seals. On the surface of these 6 bones, there was a lightning imprint that was exactly the same as the one on the outside. Following the appearance of the lightning within the bones, flowing through the bones in his body, faintly making Lu Kuan feel that his bones were undergoing a subtle change. The surrounding rich spiritual energy spontaneously converged towards Lu Kuan, entering the 6 thunder seals. At this moment, Lu Kuan felt that even if he didn't circulate Fa Li, the bones in his body that condensed the thunder seals were able to spontaneously absorb spiritual energy. This made Lu Kuan's face reveal an expression of ecstasy. This meant that his bone sensitivity to spiritual energy had increased by a level, so when he tried to break through and tried to compress Fa Li, there would be less resistance. If Qing Tian and the others condensed the 5 elements imprint, they should condense it one by one. It would be easier than forcibly absorbing and compressing it like me. After all, not every body cultivator can cultivate their divine sense to the core formation level. Following this, Lu Kuan spent a day's time, restoring the tyrannical Fa Li in his body to full, and then opened his eyes to look at the hundreds of blood-clotting grass on the floor of the Immortal's cave. With a wave of his hand, a dozen or so bottles of congealed jade appeared on the ground, exuding a rich aura of blood essence. If there was still demonic aura in the jade bottles, perhaps any cultivator would think that it was the blood essence of demonic beasts above level 5. This blood essence was slowly refined by Lu Kuan during his 40 years of seclusion. Then, he used the Scarlet Refining Devil technique to refine it. Because he wanted to ensure the speed of his cultivation, Lu Kuan did not do too much. After that, Lu Kuan began to refine the blood marrow powder. His next step was to re-engrave the spirit-controlling formation on his bones. Lu Kuan had heard from Qin Yushu that when Ye Wufeng entered the core formation stage, he only refined a single armor-type magic treasure. This magic treasure was engraved with a spirit-controlling formation and was stored inside his body. In this way, the hidden danger of his hidden spirit root was completely gone, and there were no magic tools outside his body to hinder his control of wind attribute magic. This allowed Nye Wufeng to display his valiant strength. Lu Kuan was unable to refine magic treasures in the bone-tempering stage, but he suddenly had an idea. He engraved the spirit-controlling formation on his muscles and fascia, so he did not need to rely on any spirit-controlling magic tools. Later, as he broke through to the body cultivation stage, Lu Kuan discovered another powerful use of the spirit-controlling formation, and that was the ability to control magic power. In particular, when he broke through from the bone-tempering stage to the blood condensation stage, in addition to the rich spiritual energy of the Demon Island, the spirit-controlling formation also played a significant role. When this formation was first developed, it was engraved on magic tool materials. Lu Kuan's current body was not inferior to magic tools, so his body could completely withstand the engraving of such a formation. In addition to strengthening his control of magic power, he also wanted to use this spirit-controlling formation to further understand the various possibilities of the bone treasure stage in the future. Most importantly, after engraving this formation on his bones, his sturdy and valiant muscles could be used as a physical defense. They could withstand some attacks, and he could fight without any scruples. After about 2 days, Lu Kuan finished refining all of the blood marrow powder. Looking at the 10 bottles of blood marrow powder in front of him, he muttered, "Body cultivation will indeed consume a lot of resources in the future. This blood marrow powder is only a foundation material." Then he took out a glittering golden flying sword. This flying sword emitted an aura that would make foundation establishment stage cultivators revere. It was the magic treasure of one of the core formation stage cultivators in the miraculous gate. Magic treasures and pseudo-magic treasures were different. Foundation establishment stage cultivators had powerful secret arts and profound magic power to activate pseudo-magic treasures, but magic treasures could not be activated. Even with Lu Kuan's tyrannical magic power, before his magic power metamorphosed, he could not activate it. However, the flying sword magic treasure he took out was not intended to be used to attack, but to cut his flesh. After entering the blood condensation stage, the body's recovery ability has been constantly increasing. Even necrotic muscles can be regrown. Lu Kuan held the flying sword in his hand and thought back to the past 40 years. In order to understand the state of his body, he had done all kinds of experiments on himself. He found that if a small piece of his flesh was missing, with the nourishment of his blood magic power, it would slowly regrow. This was completely different from before. In the past, at most all kinds of scars would heal. Now he could regrow flesh from white bones. This was 2 levels of recovery ability. This ability was born after he entered the viscera forging stage. As his cultivation increased, his recovery speed became faster. It was also because his body had such recovery ability that it was possible to engrave spirit-controlling formations on his bones. In the past, in order to make the spirit-controlling formations work on my entire body, I had to engrave a spirit-controlling formation on every joint. And according to the size of my bones, the size of the spirit-controlling formation would be different. Lu Kuan frowned and murmured, "My bones are much stronger than my fascia. If I use the mana true fire for some time, it can be calcined. Now that it's engraved on my bones, the situation should be different. Let's do the same as before and try on my forearm first." After making up his mind, Lu Kuan picked up the flying sword magic treasure with his right hand. His expression didn't change as he cut towards his left forearm. In a situation where his muscles voluntarily gave up their defense, the flying sword with great power easily cut through the muscles of his left forearm. Next, Lu Kuan retracted his magic power from that muscle to other parts of his body. Like peeling an apple, he shaved off the muscles on his left arm. If you want to walk the path of body cultivation, talent isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is to be able to endure pain, be cruel to yourself, and have an incomparably strong heart. Because every time a body cultivator breaks through, it's a huge blow to the body. Moreover, the pain will only become stronger as one's cultivation grows. But this little bit of pain is nothing to me, Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan licked his pale lips. His eyes flashed with a cruel light as he slowly cut off all the muscles on his left arm. He was a body cultivator who had reached the great circle of tempered body. His control over the blood in his body was just as strong. Therefore, the blood in this muscle was controlled by him, revealing the bare and pale bones of his forearm. The ulna and radius were both large at one end and small at the other. The radius connected to the palm of the hand was large, and the ulna connected to the upper arm, humerus, was large. From this point of view, there was no doubt where Lu Kuan had engraved the spirit-controlling formation. Chapter 506. The enlarged ends of the long bones are called epiphyses. Lu Kuan wanted to carve the 2 epiphyses on the forearm. He looked at the 2 pale white bones and used the flying sword magic treasure to knock them a few times, producing a few crisp sounds of metal clashing. Lu Kuan felt the pain and hardness of the bones and said, "Not bad, this quality is not inferior to most magic weapons, but it is still a little far from a pseudo-magic weapon." He thought of the scene of carving the spirit-controlling formation on the fascia decades ago and said with some emotion, "Back then, because the fascia's defense was stronger than the muscles, I had to use a strong flame to burn it. Now it is different. The bones are the strongest part of my body and I have removed the muscles. I only need to burn them for a long time." After talking to himself, Lu Kuan removed the muscles of his elbow without a change in expression. Then, a purple light curtain appeared close to the skin and appeared outside the muscles of his forearm, protecting them. Then, he made a gesture with his right hand and a purple mana true fire appeared under the bones of his left arm. This purple flame gradually grew bigger as his mana deepened and covered his forearm, including his palm. Tsk. The muscles on Lu Kuan's palm were not removed. At this moment, he was enveloped in flames. It was purely to see how long it would take for the true fire of mana to completely refine the muscles on his hand. Waves of heart-wrenching pain stimulated Lu Kuan's nerve. Ever since he had perfected the spirit perception art, his consciousness and senses had almost merged together. Even if a grain of sand fell on his body, he could sense it. The pain of the flames burning the flesh, after being magnified, had long surpassed the tempering of the elemental fire when he first built his foundation. Lu Kuan did not make a sound except for his face turning slightly pale. At this time, besides enduring the pain, he also had to observe the changes in his bones and the muscles of his palm. At the same time, he had to control the blood in the bones of his arm. If his will was not strong enough and he could not endure the pain, this bone formation could not be carved. After completing body tempering, the recovery ability of the body mainly depended on the blood. As long as the blood in this area was controlled well, the bones without any recovery ability would slowly be calcined and softened to meet the requirements of the spirit-controlling formation. As time passed, the muscles on his left palm were gradually destroyed. Without a supply of blood, and with Lu Kuan consciously lowering the defense of his muscles, the muscles on his left palm became extremely fragile. Sure enough, it seems that the bones are still the most suitable to be refined into magical equipment. The other parts of the body, the muscles, and the internal organs, at least in a short period of time, simply cannot reach the strength of the bones. In his heart, he was more and more confident about the path of bone treasure stage. Then, Lu Kuan shrunk the flame to the size of a fist and focused on calcining the wrist joint, which was the larger end of the radius. About half a day later, Lu Kuan's arm bones began to glow with a faint red light. They had become extremely hot. It's about time. Lu Kuan used his right hand to cast a spell on a jade bottle on the ground. Under his control, part of the blood marrow powder in the bottle turned into a complex array that surrounded the epiphysis. Then, he withdrew the flame. Under the control of his powerful divine sense, the arranged blood marrow powder rushed towards the softened epiphysis of the radius. It directly sank into the bone. A faintly discernible miniature formation appeared at the end of the radius. Then, Lu Kuan released the restrictions on the radius's mana and blood, allowing the mana to flow into the radius through the elbow joint. Then, his divine sense activated the spirit-controlling formation. After closing his eyes and feeling for a while, Lu Kuan said with satisfaction, "The control is stronger than the fascia." The effect of this spirit-controlling formation is related to the material it carries. My bones are stronger than my muscles and fascia, so of course the spirit-controlling formation is better. Then, he took out the thunderball with his right hand and placed it on the white bone palm of his left hand. Streams of mana passed through the radius to the white bone palm, and then poured into the thunderball. If I inscribe the spirit-controlling formation at this joint, I can completely control all the mana in the palm. There won't be any problems like before with the joints blocking it. If there's no problem here, then the next place will be the epiphysis of the ulna that connects to the elbow joint. Then, just like before, Lu Kuan spent another half a day to inscribe the spirit-controlling formation at this position. After a whole day, he finally finished inscribing the formation on the forearm bone. After inscribing on the forearm, Lu Kuan had a deeper understanding of this Tao. Bones and fascia were indeed different. If he wanted to inscribe the spirit-controlling formation, it would be best to inscribe it on the epiphysis of a thick bone. In addition to the fact that the bone was connected to the joint, it also contained a large amount of bone marrow, which would allow Lu Kuan to have stronger control over the blood in his body. I'll let the muscles grow in this place first, then I'll proceed to the next place. Lu Kuan sat cross-legged and began to operate the Imperial Thunder training technique that he had perfected. The rich spiritual energy in the surroundings rushed into his body, and after being transformed by the Bone Thunder Seal, it formed streams of pure thunder attribute mana that wandered in his body. Lu Kuan converted most of his mana into blood mana and surged it to his left forearm that was missing muscles. The surface of the two forearm bones that were originally pale without a trace of blood suddenly appeared with streaks of blood. These streaks of blood densely covered the bones, making people feel a breath of new life. A red light also appeared at the fracture of Lu Kuan's forearm muscles. This red light gradually merged with the streaks of blood on the forearm bones. Gradually, his entire forearm was shrouded in a rich red light, and all the qi and blood in his body surged to his forearm. In the past, when Lu Kuan's body was injured, it was only a wound on the muscles. If it involved the bones, it would only be a few cracks. His body was not damaged, so his recovery was very fast. White bone muscle growth was different. It relied on the body's memory and vigorous qi and blood recovery to forcibly regrow the lost muscles. In this way, Lu Kuan maintained a state of cultivation in the cave. No, it should be said that he was in a state of healing. An endless stream of new blood flowed into the red light on his forearm. As time passed, the red light became dimmer and dimmer, and gradually, something grew out of it. It wasn't until the 7th day that the red light disappeared, revealing the newly grown muscles and skin of his forearm. The surging and tyrannical thunder attribute magic power surged into the muscles of his forearm, allowing his physical magic power to recover to its peak state. Unlike traditional immortal cultivators, every time Lu Kuan lost a piece of muscle, his mana would decrease by a level. Ordinary cultivators, after entering the nascent soul stage, had some spells that could grow arms. However, those arms were just ordinary human flesh, and had nothing to do with their mana. If some demon cultivators with powerful bodies saw Lu Kuan's white bone muscle growth, they would be terrified. The regeneration of a powerful body was the demon race's top talent. Chapter 507. An average adult had 206 bones. Of course, Lu Kuan didn't need to carve all the bones in his body. Some of the smaller bones could be affected by the formation on the larger bones. The most important part was the long bones on the forelimbs, which were the big and small arms, the big and small legs, 4 on the arms and 4 on the legs. There were a total of 16 spirit-controlling formations on the forelimbs. Then there were the irregular joints connecting the forelimbs, the 2 shoulder blades on the upper body, and the 2 sides of the pelvis on the lower body. Then there were the main bones of the torso, which were Lu Kuan's sternum and spine. The sternum was easy to carve, so he only needed to carve one spot. The spine was the most troublesome. In order to ensure the effective range of the spirit-controlling formation, Lu Kuan deduced that he needed to carve 3 spirit-controlling formations on the cervical, thoracic, and lumbar vertebrae. Of course, there was also the last position, and that was the skull. Lu Kuan had been cultivating for so long, and his skull was also filled with lightning attribute magic power. He wanted to enter the treasure bone stage, and all the bones in his body would store magic power that had undergone a qualitative change. How could his skull not cultivate? If Lu Kuan really entered the bone treasure stage and tempered his bones to the level of magic treasures, his skull's defense would be equally shocking. In the end, Lu Kuan needed to carve a total of 25 spirit-controlling formations. Because the amount of blood marrow powder used on each spot was different, and the bones were much smaller than the muscles, 10 bottles of blood marrow powder were more than enough. While Lu Kuan was in seclusion to condense the lightning strike and carve the bone spirit-controlling formation, Demon Spirit Island was slowly being remodeled under the hard work of Zhu Xiaofeng and Pan Yen. Pan Yen complained incessantly during the process. He was treated as a laborer by Zhu Xiaofeng. As long as it was something that could be solved with earth attribute magic, Pan Yen would solve it. Zhu Xiaofeng, on the other hand, would set up restrictions that could only be released by core formation cultivators. From the entrance of the spirit descending platform all the way to the core area of Monster Spirit Island, everything was transformed by Pan Yan's earth element spell. After all, whether it was the body refining pavilion or the treasure pavilion, there would be many new disciples. These disciples didn't know how to fly, so some of the necessary mountain paths and roads had to be laid down. This job was naturally left to Pan Yen, who was proficient in earth magic. At this time, in the central region of Demon Spirit Island, there was a small ring-shaped valley. Pan Yen wiped the sweat off his face and used his powerful body to erect a huge square rock in front of him. There were 3 big words carved on the rock: 8 Spirit Valley. Really, Martial Uncle Zhu? Why did he have to remodel the entire Demon Spirit Island? He even made me spend a lot of magic power to make stone paths. When Master comes out, I'll definitely complain. Pan Yan's face was filled with depression. Zhao Qingtian and the other senior apprentice brothers were all out on missions. On Monster Spirit Island, his seniority was the lowest. However, he also had the body of Earth, so Zhu Xiaofeng naturally used him. However, after Martial Uncle Zhu's transformation, this place really does look like a huge cultivation sect. Pan Yen flew into the air on his magic tool and looked down at the entire island. The central region of the island was the 8 Spirit Valley. Because it contained the 8 caves with the densest spirit energy on the island, Zhu Xiaofeng named it the 8 Spirit Valley. Their cave residences were all in the center. The 8 Spirit Valley was divided into 3 regions. The largest one was to the west of the 8 Spirit Valley. It was filled with dense yellow demonic energy. This was the demonic energy region of Monster Spirit Island. Outside of this region, there was a huge rock with the words, Demonic Ape Valley, written on it. Because Shao Jin cultivated in the demonic energy region, Zhu Xiaofeng gave it this name. The other 2 regions were different in size. There were 2 stone paths that led to 2 different places. They also had square rocks outside of them with the words, Body Refining Pavilion, and Treasure Pavilion, written on them. On the small mountains where the Treasure Pavilion was located, there were all kinds of buildings. They were all made of stone. The stone walls were beautified by Zhu Xiaofeng's spell, making them look quite majestic. As for the Body Refining Pavilion, it was located on a mountain that was a bit bigger than the Treasure Pavilion. However, it was empty without many buildings. Zhu Xiaofeng clearly didn't know what the Body Refining Pavilion would need. He planned to wait until Lu Kuan came out of seclusion before asking for his opinion. Further away were the other regions of the island. These regions were not small and were specially set aside by Zhu Xiaofeng. If there were resources in the future, he would set up a forbidden formation. The forbidden formation would gather the spiritual energy in the other regions to the center. Only then would the sect be truly formed. Pan Yen looked at the distant regions and muttered, Martial Uncle Zhu seems to have said that he wants to catch some wild beasts and grade 1 demonic beasts and throw them into the outer regions to make Monster Spirit Island more lively. He shouldn't want me to catch them, right? Just as Pan Yen was muttering to himself, a blue light shot over from the distance. Damn, does Martial Uncle Zhu have other hard work for me to do? Pan Yan's expression changed. Chapter 508. A year passed in the blink of an eye. Aside from some Earth attribute fluctuations coming from a few mountain peaks, the rest of the island was very deserted. Zhu Xiaofeng took advantage of this time to frantically learn all kinds of formation knowledge. As for Qin Yushu and Lu Shao, they were refining magic treasures together. Back then, they obtained several magic treasures from the 3 core formation cultivators at the Miraculous Gate. Aside from the golden flying sword that Lu Kuan took, there was also a long saber and a jade ruler. Qin Yushu and the others only needed to disassemble these two magic treasures, extract the original refining materials, and combine them with some other materials to refine magic treasures for Lu Xiao. In the demonic ape valley, Little Gold and Little Gray, the two demonic beasts, were cultivating with all their might. Not far from them, there was a small silkworm lying on the ground very comfortably. Its belly was facing up, and many of its little legs were facing the sky. It was sleeping comfortably. For the little silkworm, it was enough to rub against the demonic qi gathered by Xiao Jin and the others. Suddenly, Xiao Jin opened its eyes and looked in the direction of the Eight-Spirit Valley at the center of the island. Its eyes flashed with excitement. It stopped cultivating, and its 4 yellow eyes flashed as it quickly shot in that direction. This action awakened the little silkworm, but it lost interest after seeing the direction the little monkey was heading. It dragged its bloated silver body closer to the little silver-spotted leopard and continued to leisurely sleep. The Eight-Spirit Valley's cave was the closest to the demonic ape valley. It was the place with the densest spiritual qi. It was also where Lu Kuan's cave was located. Xiao Jin quickly arrived at the cave's entrance. As if sensing Xiao Jin's arrival, the cave's restriction outside opened and the little monkey flashed in. Inside the cave, Lu Kuan was sitting cross-legged with his naked body exposed. At this moment, his skin had become delicate and white with a bit of redness, as if he was a newborn baby. The little monkey, who had just come in, was stunned and couldn't help but squeak. Lu Kuan smiled and said, "It's nothing. It's just that most of the muscles and skin on my body have grown again. It looks like this on the outside, but the strength of my body hasn't changed much. The real change is in my bones. After being modified by the lightning strike and the spirit-controlling formation, my bones are now able to spontaneously absorb spiritual energy into my body even if I don't actively circulate my cultivation method. Under the effects of the spirit-controlling formation and the cultivation method, my cultivation speed will be even faster. From now on, the core of my entire body will gradually lean towards the bones." Lu Kuan sighed with emotion. "When I first created this realm, my goal was to refine my body into a material for refining. The entire body-tempering realm is based on the Vajra esoteric art. It progresses from the outside to the inside. My physical body has finally reached the pinnacle of my current realm. The next level is to refine a part of the body into a magic treasure. Under the nourishment of this magic treasure, the other parts of the body will be further improved. Xiao Jin, your innate ability is extremely powerful. You can learn my breakthrough process, but the bone treasure realm is a bit different. You need to make a lot of preparations in the early stages." The little monkey was a bit puzzled. If it's the spirit-controlling formation, you probably don't need to inscribe it. Because your innate ability is powerful, your control over demonic energy and demonic spiritual energy far surpasses that of other demonic beasts. Lu Kuan revealed an expression of lingering fear and said, "If that's the case, you can also avoid the most painful part." He recalled the formation carvings in the past year. The other parts of his body were fine, similar to his arms, but only his spine was particularly troublesome. The muscles near the spine were more delicate, plus it was on the back, so it was a bit troublesome for Lu Kuan to cut it. However, this was still okay. The headache was the calcination of the true fire. Although the internal organs were closer to the true fire, with the protection of the defensive thunder shield, plus its strength was not what it used to be, there would not be any damage. And the most painful part for Lu Kuan was the calcination of his spine. One must know that there were a lot of neurons on the spine, which controlled the movements of the entire body. The more neurons, the greater the pain, and he also had to use his spiritual sense to sense the calcination progress of several parts of the spine, as well as control the blood marrow powder to form a formation on it. Luckily, Lu Kuan's body was tempered 1,000 times, and his willpower was extremely strong, so he could barely withstand the pain and successfully inscribed the spirit-controlling formation on his spine. Lu Kuan thought for a while, then said, "I don't know if your ability can imitate this mana imprint. Demonic beasts and human cultivators are not the same. Some demonic beasts have the attributes of the 5 elements, and the demonic spiritual energy they cultivate has attribute. Some are like you and Dahe, pure demonic spiritual energy, without any extra attribute. So you have to think carefully about this mana imprint. With this mana imprint, our bones will be like the materials of magic treasures, and have their own attribute." Hearing this, the little monkey revealed a thoughtful expression. In the past, when Lu Kuan condensed the thunder stamp, it saw it with its own eyes and knew the formation process of this imprint. Lu Kuan waved his hand, and collected all the blood marrow powder in front of him. His eyes were mixed with excitement, and a complicated expression of worry. He slowly said, "Next, I plan to break through to the bone treasure stage. Observe carefully, it can help you break through." Xiao Jin nodded and sat down in a corner of the cave. Lu Kuan returned to the center of the spirit-gathering formation, closed his eyes, and began to break through to the bone treasure stage. Ordinary cultivators, from the great circle of the foundation establishment stage to the core formation stage, condense all the liquid spiritual energy into a golden core, thus completing the transformation of the spiritual energy and entering a new level. For a body cultivator, the purpose of the bone treasure stage is to refine the bones of the whole body into a magic treasure. But to refine the bones to a higher strength, the liquid spiritual energy is completely insufficient. It must be tempered with a higher level of spiritual energy. From the great circle of the tempered body stage to the bone treasure stage, it is to condense all the tyrannical spiritual energy of the body into the bones, forming a solid state and combining with the bones. In this way, the bones are the source of a higher level of spiritual energy. Under the tempering of this kind of spiritual energy, it is possible to gradually reach the quality of a magic treasure. So there is only one thing Lu Kuan needs to do to break through, and that is to condense the spiritual energy into a solid state, and combine it with the bones. He has studied the ancient method of core formation, and from Zhu Xiaofeng and the others, he knows about the breakthrough of ordinary cultivators. He also knows about the demon clan's way of breaking through, and the situation of many cultivators who have comprehended and combined their spiritual energy. He already has a set of operation methods for breaking through. The first step for most cultivators before core formation is to crystallize their spiritual energy. The liquid spiritual energy in the dantian is already full, and there is no place to continue storing it. If they continue to cultivate their spiritual energy, there is a certain chance that their spiritual energy will crystallize. At this time, there is a possibility of core formation. Many geniuses, such as Nie Wufeng, have their spiritual energy crystallized even before they went into seclusion to break through the bottleneck. This kind of cultivator basically can smoothly break through. The process of crystallization for traditional cultivators needs to continue for more than 2 years. This is the reason why core formation takes at least 3 years. These cultivators all store their spiritual energy in the dantian, and they are very careful during the crystallization. They are afraid that the tyrannical spiritual energy will cause damage to the dantian. Many cultivators fail to break through because their dantian is damaged during the crystallization process. In this way, there is almost no chance for a second core formation. Lu Kuan's method of crystallization is different from traditional cultivators. He wants to store the new spiritual energy in the bones, which is the toughest part of his body. A mere crystallization of spiritual energy will not cause any damage to his bones. Chapter 509. Lu Kuan put in a lot of effort, endured great pain, and spent a year carving spirit-controlling formations on his bones in order to increase his control over his magic power. He wanted to be able to compress his magic power more easily and make it easier to crystallize his magic power. The cave he was in was the place with the densest spiritual energy on Demon Spirit Island. Moreover, there were spirit-gathering formations inside and outside to gather spiritual energy. The spiritual energy here was completely comparable to the central area of Demon Spirit Island. Such dense spiritual energy could help traditional cultivators increase their chances of crystallizing their magic power and condensing their golden core. It was also very useful for a body cultivator like Lu Kuan. Under the operation of Lu Kuan's body refining technique, the surrounding dense spiritual energy quickly entered his bones and transformed into magic power. The newly generated magic power was in his bones. This was one of the benefits of recondensing the lightning strike. The magic power that appeared directly in his bones could accelerate the condensation process and save a lot of energy. To crystallize one's magic power, they had to first condense it. For traditional cultivators, condensing magic power would consume a lot of magic power, so they had to maintain a state of cultivation. During this process, the newly converted magic power was greater than the condensed magic power. Therefore, the spiritual energy in the outside world was abundant, making it easier. Of course, condensing magic power wasn't done in one step. A small part of the magic power was first condensed, and the rest of the magic power slowly reached a new density. At that time, the magic power would be able to crystallize. As a body cultivator, Lu Kuan was similar to traditional cultivators in this aspect. However, compared to traditional cultivators, his magic power crystallization process had advantages and disadvantages. The advantage was that his magic power was concentrated in his bones and not his dantian. This was a magic power container that was almost as strong as a top-grade magic tool. No matter how much magic power was poured in, there wouldn't be any cracks, let alone damage it. It greatly increased the speed. The disadvantage was that Lu Kuan's magic power was twice that of a normal peak foundation establishment cultivator. The more magic power there was, the more time it would take to condense it, and the more difficult it would be to crystallize it. However, the advantages and disadvantages complemented each other, so it was hard to say how long it would take. Under Lu Kuan's control, all the mana in his body gathered in his bones. The newly generated mana appeared in his bones at the same time. Under the pressure of the spirit-controlling array, the density of mana in his bones slowly increased. Of course, the bones did not completely seal off the magic power. In the process of condensing, in addition to the magic power that was consumed, there was also a large amount of magic power that was rebounded from the bones and scattered to other parts of the body. Lu Kuan didn't care about this at all. His goal at this stage was only to crystallize. He wasn't in a hurry to force all his magic power into his bones. In addition to the spirit-controlling formation on his bones, his vigorous blood was also of great help in condensing his magic power. This function was to transport things. Under the effect of Lu Kuan's perfected body refining technique, the blood circulating throughout the body could assist the spirit-controlling formation, absorbing a large amount of mana that bounced back from the bones and redirecting it back to the bones. For Lu Kuan, who had a strong heart, changing the speed and direction of blood flow was a piece of cake. With so many advantages, Lu Kuan had no doubt that his magic power could be crystallized. It was just a matter of time. Just like this, time slowly passed by as Lu Kuan condensed his magic power. 1 year, 2 years, in the 3rd year of Lu Kuan's seclusion, Pan Yen, who was painstakingly building the artificial lake on Demon Spirit Island, finally reached the final stage. This body of solid earth physique cultivator was standing in a large hole in the outer area of the island. This hole was about 200 feet in diameter. Pan Yan's sturdy figure was very small compared to the large hole. Connected to the circular hole were 2 channels that were several feet deep and 10 feet wide. These channels were connected to the central area of Demon Spirit Island, and the width of the channels gradually decreased. When they reached the central area of the island, they branched off and went all the way to the top of the mountain. After that, Zhu Xiaofeng only needed to set up a few water-type formations on the top of the mountain. Such a large man-made river and lake was slowly created by Pan Yen practicing earth-type spells every day for the past 3 years. Standing in the middle of the hole, Pan Yen muttered, "Today, if I make this artificial lake a bit deeper, it will truly be over. Although it took a bit longer, it wasn't as tiring as I thought." Just as he spoke, a small silver figure appeared under his feet. It was an extremely fat silkworm. It was the silver silkworm Gu. This little guy was very happy on Demon Spirit Island. In the past, when it was outside, it only dared to hibernate deep underground and slowly cultivate. Now, it could wander around as it pleased. Although the island was limited in size, for this little guy it was already very big. "Little Silver, what brings you here?" "Right, it's time to get the poison." Pan Yen signed a contract with the silver silkworm Gu and casually gave it a name. Hiss. The 2 big eyes on the silkworm's head blinked, and its small mouth seemed to be slightly curled up. "Hey, you're still here." Without waiting for Pan Yen to finish speaking, the fat silkworm plunged into the ground. It was as if the ground wasn't solid mud, but water, allowing it to easily enter. Pan Yen helplessly shook his head. His body flashed with a yellow light, and he quickly followed the silkworm into the soil. This scene had happened countless times over the years. Every time Pan Yen went to get the poison, the silver silkworm Gu would play a game of cat and mouse with him. The last few times, the little silkworm was quickly caught. Pan Yen had been practicing earth-type spells for the past few years, and with his body of thick earth, he was even more proficient in earth-type spells. But this time, the little silkworm was already prepared. It found that Pan Yan's speed was much faster than it, but when it came to drilling down, it was much slower. So this time, the little guy cleverly kept drilling down. In its mind, as long as it could make Pan Yen spend more than an hour to catch it, it would be a success. After drilling down more than 100 feet, the little silkworm felt the earth-type magic power fluctuation above and knew that it was right. Pan Yen, that big guy, was not much faster than it in drilling. The excitement in the little silkworm's eyes grew stronger and stronger. Its fat body twisted and turned, and it kept drilling down. Dang. But just as the little fellow was getting excited, it suddenly bumped into an incomparably hard object, which stopped it from diving down. The impact made the little fellow a little dazed and dizzy. "Hey, what is this?" After a while, Pan Yan's yellow light came to the little silkworm's side. He first grabbed the still dizzy silkworm and put it into the spirit beast pouch. Then, he carefully probed forward with his divine sense. What was exposed to his divine sense was a silver light curtain. Bursts of heart-palpitating aura hit him in the face. "Silver restriction? I can't detect it with my divine sense if it's too far away. The aura is very similar to the one surrounding the island." Pan Yen muttered to himself. He clenched his fist and knocked down a few times. The restriction light curtain did not move at all. That's right, there is a restriction above the island. How can there not be one deep underground? Then Pan Yen shook his head. His body flashed with yellow light, and he used the earth escape technique to escape upward. Chapter 510. Just as little Pan Yen was hammering the restriction, a middle-aged man suddenly opened his eyes at an unknown depth below Demon Spirit Island. This man was wearing a red robe with a layer of faint black light on his body. He was sitting cross-legged beside a purple-black pool. It was Tian Renjie from the Red Refining sect. A trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. He looked up at the restriction above him and muttered to himself, "The restriction here is connected to the Devil's Pool." Just now, this restriction seemed to have some strange vibrations. If I hadn't cultivated beside the Devil's Pool for so many years, I wouldn't have noticed it. The restriction above the Devil's Cave is completely different from other places. Even the Devil's magic disc in my hand can't break it. Tian Renjie touched his chin with one hand. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. I almost forgot. With such dense demonic qi here, according to the methods of those ancient cultivators, there must be dense spirit qi and demonic qi suppressing above. Otherwise, the pure demonic qi in the devil's pool wouldn't slowly decrease with the passage of time. It's obviously tempered by the formation above. Could it be that the restriction above touched something just now? Tian Renjie lowered his head and pondered for a while. He frowned and said, "Recently, I've been on the verge of breaking through a bottleneck. It's not good for me to go out. Later, I'll send some disciples to investigate above. If I'm not wrong, it should be the chaotic ocean. Maybe the chaos there is caused by those cultivators suppressing the demonic qi." Soon, the cave with pure demonic qi fell into silence again. After another year, the Devil's Island was full of vitality. On the originally lifeless mountain peaks, there were birds chirping and insects chirping. On the several mountain peaks in the center, there were several mountain streams flowing down. There were also many fish jumping happily in the mountain streams. These mountain streams eventually converged into several wide rivers and flowed into a lake in the outer area. There were many beasts drinking at the edge of the lake. Due to the abundant spirit qi here, even ordinary beasts looked full of spirituality. On this day, a white light suddenly appeared on the spirit descending platform of the Devil's Island. 4 figures appeared on it. There were 3 men and 1 woman. The most eye-catching one was a handsome young man in the lead. Next to him was a beautiful woman dressed in white. Her body emitted a faint cold aura, and her face was somewhat similar to the heroic young man. It was Zhao Qingtian and Sher Chao, and the 2 behind them were naturally Huang Xiaoyun and Yu Xian. The spell formation here has been changed. Zhao Qingtian exclaimed in surprise as he looked at the spell formation that enveloped the spirit descent platform. Yes, this is safer. More than 4 years have passed. I wonder if Master has broken through yet. Zhao Qingtian tossed out a talisman. He said. Huang Xiaoyun, who was at the side, smacked his lips and said, "It should be about time. Traditional cultivators need 3 years, or even less. Master should be about the same." Huang Xiaoyun continued, "If Master has broken through, then we have a high chance of entering the bone treasure stage. After all, under the guidance of Master, the founder, the chances of breaking through are very high." Zhao Qingtian sighed and said with some worry, "Little Yun, we have to cultivate to the great circle of body-tempering realm first. Master told us to collect a large amount of poison. I know that viscera forging stage cultivation requires a terrifying amount of time. Let's let Master study these poisons first." As one of the earliest disciples to cultivate under Lu Kuan, Zhao Qingtian was able to figure out why Lu Kuan had sent them out. Thus, under his guidance, they stayed in the state of Qi, a country where demonic cultivators ran rampant for 4 years. During these 4 years, they almost ran through the entire state of Qi and collected countless poisons. Of course, they encountered many battles in the process. After all, in the state of Qi, killing people to steal treasures was a common occurrence. Fortunately, they had disguised themselves as early Foundation establishment cultivators, so the most powerful opponents they had encountered so far were only a few late Foundation establishment cultivators. Even with their full strength and Little Cloud's devilish golden body, they were able to escape unscathed. Zhao Qingtian and the others waited for about a quarter of an hour before a simple and honest voice came from outside. "Senior Marshal Brothers, you've returned. Junior Marshal Brother will open the restriction." After he finished speaking, the restriction outside the spirit descending platform slowly opened, revealing a strong and happy Pan Yen. "Haha, little Yen, long time no see. How come you've become stronger? Tisk tsk, it's more comfortable to stay at home. Unlike us, we've all lost weight." Pan Yan's expression froze as he speechlessly looked at his 4 senior martial brothers and sisters. He muttered, "Junior martial brother, I've been exhausted these past few years. You actually made little Yen say you're tired. Come, come, tell us. Pan Yen released his flying magic treasure and muttered, "It's all because of Martial Uncle Zhu." Then they flew toward the central area. Zhao Qingtian and the others listened to Pan Yan's description and observed the changes on Demon Spirit Island. After understanding the reason behind Pan Yan's complaints, they all laughed. Just as they were about to enter the Eight Spirit Valley, the spiritual energy at the center of Demon Spirit Island suddenly fluctuated violently. The surrounding spiritual energy all rushed toward one direction, forming a spiritual energy vortex. Zhao Qingtian and the others couldn't even fly steadily due to the turbulent spiritual energy. However, when they saw this phenomenon, they all became excited. Core formation celestial phenomenon. The spiritual energy vortex is in Master's cave. Haha, Master succeeded. It's definitely right. This phenomenon is even more ferocious than when the two martial uncles broke through. Master's direction is correct. At the same time, 3 figures flew out from the other caves in the Eight Spirit Valley. It was Zhu Xiaofeng, Lu Xiao, and Qin Yushu. Qin Yushu cultivated a wind attribute cultivation method. Just like Nie Wufeng, he was able to fly at the foundation establishment stage. The 3 of them were also very excited. It's been 4 years. Junior Martial Brother finally succeeded. With Junior Martial Brother's battle prowess, I'm afraid he has the power of a late-stage core formation cultivator. Haha, like this, we have our own high-end battle prowess. The spiritual energy phenomenon lasted for half a day before slowly dissipating. Lu Kuan calmly looked at his own body and then laughed loudly. His laughter was so loud that even the deaf could hear it. Even the cave was shaking a little. Haha, I succeeded. My deduction was correct. If this continues, I can definitely refine my bones into a magic treasure. At this moment, Lu Kuan's hand contained a great amount of power. The spiritual energy in his muscles, organs, and blood all disappeared and gathered in his bones. If one looked through his body, they would find that all of his bones were emitting a faint purple light. Waves of terrifying energy flowed through them like they were treasures. Lu Kuan's mind moved and a powerful wave of spiritual energy spread out from his bones. This was a completely different aura from the foundation establishment stage. Chapter 5:11. Feeling that the mana in his body had completely reached the core formation stage, Lu Kuan exhaled heavily. Just as I expected, the crystallization of spiritual energy is the most difficult time. He used his divine sense to examine all the bones in his body. Between the dense and cancellous bones, there were many tiny purple crystalline particles embedded in them. They had completely fused with the bones and looked like they were part of the bones themselves. Luckily, I made a lot of preparations. Finally, with the help of the pill of accumulation, I was able to condense the crystallized spiritual energy into solid particles and completely merge with the bones. These tiny purple granules are my magic power in the form of solid form. Lu Kuan's expression turned serious. Thinking back to the previous scene, he whispered, "It seems that if Zhao Qingtian and the others want to break through, the spirit-controlling array must be engraved. They also need a cultivator with a strong spiritual sense to help them at the last moment." After all, the final step of condensing the Dan and merging the bones is completely dependent on a strong spiritual sense to support the spirit-controlling array. It is also based on a few ancient secret techniques. I also relied on the pill of accumulation to raise my spiritual sense to the intermediate stage of the completion level. Hey, Senior Martial Brother and Qing Tian are here. Lu Kuan thought of his spiritual sense and spread it out. He found that his spiritual sense was much stronger than before. Even through the array, he could see the scene outside the cave. He slightly formed a spell and opened the seal of the cave. When he walked out, he saw Zhu Xiaofeng and the others looking at him with excitement. Haha, Junior Martial Brother, I didn't think that after breaking through to the completion level, your spiritual sense would be at the peak of the intermediate stage of the completion level. It's not much weaker than Xiao Hongfei's. From this, I can see your strength after breaking through. Zhu Xiaofeng saw Lu Kuan come out and congratulated him. Senior Marshal brother, you must be joking. My spiritual sense is okay, but at the last stage of the breakthrough, I used a lot of spiritual energy. My spiritual energy is about the same as a normal completion level cultivator, but its purity is still a bit lower than Xiao Hongfei's. Qin Yushu carefully looked at Lu Kuan, whose aura had changed greatly. He said seriously, Junior Marshal brother, what is the approximate level of your strength now? It should be more than the intermediate stage of the completion level. Lu Kuan's face revealed a strange expression. The strength of a body cultivator mainly depends on the strength of the body. Before, I had the strength of 100,000 pounds. Now, after condensing the Dan and merging the bones, the strength of my bones increased greatly. Let me try it. With that, Lu Kuan turned around and looked at the prohibition spell around his abode. This prohibition spell came from the Zhai Xing Zi. It could barely withstand an attack from a cultivator in the beginning stage of the completion level. He decided to try it out. Zhao Qingtian and the others immediately retreated. They looked at Lu Kuan with incomparable excitement. They all clenched their fists. They wanted to know what level their master's strength would reach after entering the bone treasure stage. After they entered the blood condensation stage, their physical strength reached more than 30,000 pounds. Those with a strong foundation were close to 40,000 pounds. When Lu Kuan was at the great circle of body tempering, his maximum explosive strength was around 120,000 pounds. Now that he had broken through to the next stage, his strength would definitely increase greatly. Lu Kuan took a deep breath. Looking at the seal in front of him, he lowered his body slightly. His right foot suddenly stomped on the ground, creating a small hole. He exerted strength from his waist, driving his arm that was suffused with a faint purple light, and fiercely punched forward. An invisible pressure emitted from his fist. The pressure created by pure strength surged in all directions. Zhao Qingtian and the other body cultivators couldn't help but feel a burst of pressure in their chests. Zhu Xiaofeng and the others even unconsciously opened their magic power barrier. Just the aura of this punch alone was enough to make them tremble in fear. Boom! The thick seal that enveloped Lu Kuan's cavern was like a fragile mirror. It was easily shattered by this punch, turning into specks of light that scattered. The remaining power of the punch even shattered many of the mountain rocks at the entrance of the cavern. Lu Kuan felt the power of this punch. His face was filled with disbelief. He muttered, "My strength has actually doubled. It's at least 200,000 pounds." The surrounding people were all cultivators who had cultivated to a certain level. Their ears were incomparably sharp. They all heard Lu Kuan's words. This made Zhao Qingtian and the others incomparably aghast. This kind of terrifying strength was 7 to 8 times stronger than theirs. It could be said that Lu Kuan's strength alone could easily crush them. They simply didn't have the slightest ability to resist. Zhu Xiaofeng pondered for a while and asked, "When Junior Apprentice Brother was at the peak of the tempered body realm, you used the one-arm technique and easily blocked the attack of a peak early core formation cultivator. Also, that old Devil Huang Mei's magic weapon has been refined for many years. Its power is not weak. Junior Apprentice Brother's current physical strength is comparable to that of a late core formation cultivator, right?" Lu Kuan regained his senses and said, "Previously, when I was sorting out the body cultivation system, I compared the strength of body cultivators and traditional cultivators according to Zhao Qingtian and the others' situation. Generally speaking, 100,000 pounds of strength is about the same as the attack of a new early core formation cultivator's magic weapon. For a late core formation cultivator, it's estimated to be around 200,000 pounds. However, the strength of traditional cultivators' magic weapons are not the same. There are endless amounts of secret techniques and technique. They cannot be lumped together. However, after I obtain a magic weapon, my combat ability will increase even further. Then, Lu Kuan revealed a somewhat confident expression and said, if my meteoric rod and thunderball reach the magic weapon level, I can fight a late core formation cultivator with this strength alone. On top of that, the power linking arms technique increases my strength. I'm afraid a normal late core formation cultivator won't be my match. When Zhu Xiaofeng and the others heard Lu Kuan's words, they all raised their heads and laughed. As they laughed, sparkling and translucent liquid appeared at the corners of their eyes. In the blink of an eye, it was evaporated by their magic power. Only now did they feel a deep sense of security and have greater confidence in their future revenge. In a situation where nascent soul cultivators rarely make a move, a late core formation cultivator's combat ability is the key to a sect's survival. In the past, only Nie Wufeng of the Yang clan had this level of combat ability. In the country of Chu, apart from the 10 major sects, there are also 10 smaller sects and clans that have nascent soul cultivators. The remaining small sects have the highest combat ability of late core formation cultivators. It can be said that as long as they develop steadily, even if they provoke high-level cultivators, with Lu Kuan there, they have nothing to fear. Of course, treasures like the Demon Spirit Island and the Sentient Puppet cannot be revealed. It is very likely that they will attract nascent soul cultivators. Qin Yushu looked at Lu Kuan and smiled. Since Junior Martial Brother has entered the core formation stage, I am also preparing to enter seclusion for a long time and enter the peak of foundation establishment as soon as possible. Lu Kuan sincerely said, Senior Martial Brother, you can enter seclusion without worry. After entering the core formation stage, my lifespan has increased greatly. There are many things that I can do. In the next few years, I will help Senior Martial Brother collect wind attribute materials. When Senior Martial Brother enters the core formation stage, you can directly refine magic weapons. Then I will thank Junior Martial Brother in advance. However, it is very difficult for me to reach the core formation stage using wind attribute techniques. Even with the help of the dense spiritual energy of the Demon Spirit Island, the chances are not very high. That's right, Junior Martial Brother. Qin Yushu seemed to have thought of something and said to Lu Kuan, Junior Martial Brother, when you enter the bone treasure stage, your goal is to turn your bones into magic weapons. This way, bone treasure stage body cultivators are not suitable to use other magic weapons. After all, you will only use your magic power to nourish your bones. Lu Kuan's eyes lit up. He seemed to have understood a bit. He said, Senior Martial Brother Qin, you mean? Chapter 512. Qin Yushu laughed and said, Junior Brother brought back the psychic jade pendant many years ago. I have already studied it and I will describe it to Junior Brother in detail later. Zhu Xiaofeng also said, Junior Brother just broke through, so he should have a lot of experience to explain to Qin Tian and the rest. We will take our leave first. Lu Kuan nodded and said, Thank you for your concern, Senior Brothers. Junior Brother does have some arrangements. Zhu Xiaofeng and the other two turned into streaks of light and left. Lu Kuan brought Zhao Qingtian and the rest into his cave. Ji. As soon as they entered the dwelling, a little yellow monkey happily ran to the side of Zhao Qingtian and the others. It was extremely happy. It was Xiao Jin, who had accompanied Lu Kuan in seclusion for over 3 years. The little monkey had gained a lot in the past few years. Under its divine ability, it knew all the things to pay attention to when a body cultivator broke through to the complete body tempering realm. It even turned the information into a suitable technique for it. Zhao Qingtian was also very happy to see Xiao Jin. Feeling the vibration at his waist, he patted the spirit beast pouch and a sturdy silver leopard appeared in front of him. It was Xiao Hui. Its body carried a bit of a murderous aura. Clearly, it had experienced many battles in the past few years. Its demonic spiritual energy was almost at the peak of level 3. With this aura, its true combat strength was comparable to a level 4 demonic beast. The two demonic beasts looked at each other and sparks seemed to fly. Gigi! Awo! Then, they shot out of the cave one after another. The entire 8-Spirit Valley was filled with their cheerful cries. TSK TSK, Xiao Hui's strength has increased greatly after so many years. And you guys, your aura is thick and you have a bit of a murderous aura. It seems like your combat experience has increased quickly. Zhao Qingtian and the rest recalled the battles in the past few years. Their faces were filled with longing. Ordinary enemies were still okay. They could deal with them with normal cultivator methods. But when they encountered powerful enemies, they could use the close combat techniques of body cultivators with all their strength. Their lightning-fast reaction in close combat, various methods to protect the enemy, and various techniques to display the strength of body cultivators. They were completely immersed in it. Pan Yen looked at their expressions with a gloomy expression and muttered something under his breath. Lu Kuan's ears were very sensitive. Naturally, he heard the complaints of this young disciple. He laughed and said, "Little Yen, after some time, Master will give you a task that is very suitable for you to do. It will save you the trouble of holding back these past few years." Pan Yan's eyes lit up as he said, "Master, is what you said true? When has Master ever lied to you?" I don't think so." 44. After comforting Pan Yen, Lu Kuan slowly walked to the front of the hall with a solemn expression. The other disciples obediently sat down cross-legged. Last time, after Lu Kuan had entered the viscera forging stage, he had gained some insights and explained the body cultivation system to them. This time, he had broken through to the bone treasure stage, which was equivalent to the core formation stage. He would definitely have more insights to share with them. In these past few years, you must have had many questions about the blood condensation stage. Presumably, one of the questions is related to the transformation of mana from your blood. Lu Kuan waited for them to sit down before immediately opening his mouth to speak. Zhao Qingtian and the others looked at each other and honestly said, "Master, it is true. The ratio of mana from our bodies to mana from our blood is different. Little Yun's conversion ratio is the largest. He needs 5 times his body's mana to convert to 1 time his blood's mana. Yu Xian and I both have 3 times the conversion ratio. Shui Er has 4 times the conversion ratio. It seems that everyone has their own differences." Lu Kuan nodded and looked at Pan Yen. This little disciple scratched his head and somewhat embarrassedly replied, "Master, my conversion ratio is about 6 times. Is it because my cultivation is very slow?" Lu Kuan shook his head and said, "This is related to your cultivation speed. However, the blood condensation stage nourishes the entire body. The focus is on the nourishment of the internal organs. The conversion ratio does not have much of an effect on this stage. At most, there is a difference of 10 to 20 years. Master's conversion ratio was 9 times. A total of 9 times my body's mana was converted to 1 time blood's mana." The disciples below looked at each other. Finally, Zhao Qingtian asked, "Master, your bloodline is naturally suited for body cultivation. Little Yun and Little Yen also have special constitutions. Could it be related to this?" Lu Kuan looked at Zhao Qingtian approvingly and said, "This point can't be completely confirmed because only the 3 of us are doing the comparison. But one thing is certain, the higher the ratio, the easier it is to break through the complete body tempering realm and enter the bone treasure stage." Looking at the puzzled expressions of the disciples, Lu Kuan explained, "I will first explain to you the breakthrough from the bone treasure stage to the bone treasure stage. This will allow you to have a better understanding of this stage. First of all, you need to carve a mana imprint. It is similar to the imprint of the lightning stamp in my body. Moreover, it must be condensed within the bones. While speaking, Lu Kuan took out several jade slips. His spiritual sense penetrated into the slip. He deleted and improved his understanding of the lightning stamp and the method of condensing it. With his spiritual sense at the peak of the middle stage of core formation, he finished writing in a few breaths. He threw the slips to the disciples below and said, "This is the most basic method of condensing it. With your understanding of each cultivation method and attribute, you should be able to comprehend it after some time. You can start from the imprint on the arm bones, then the leg bones. However, according to my speculation, you can now condense the imprint on the arm. When you enter the viscera forging stage, you should be able to condense the imprint on the leg bones. Finally, when you reach the bone treasure stage, you can condense the imprint on the chest and back. This is because every additional imprint has a requirement on the body." The disciples below heard this and fell into deep thought. Especially Sher Chow, after looking at the jade slips, her expression was quite pleasantly surprised. One must know that she had obtained the lightning stamp and wind stamp before, but she had not been able to comprehend the ice stamp. Now, in this jade slip, there was Lu Kuan's deeper understanding of the magic stamp. It was a great reference for her. Lu Kuan coughed lightly, drawing the attention of the disciples back. He continued, "You can carefully study the imprint later. As for why we condense these imprints, it is to increase the attributes of our bone." Increase the attributes? That's right. Next, Lu Kuan talked about the attribute imprint and the carving of the psychic array, all the way to the crystallization of mana. After the mana crystallizes, it is time to condense the core and fuse the bones. At this time, the blood condensation realm's blood magic power transformation will have the greatest effect. Hearing this, the disciples' spirits shook and they pricked up their ears to listen. In the last step, in addition to the help of the spirit-controlling array, the blood in my bones also helped me condense the core. The blood was transported and solidified, quickly fusing the crystallized mana into a single grain of mana. This amount is exactly 9 grains. This is the ratio of the blood condensation realm's physical mana to blood magic power. In the step of condensing the core and fusing the bones, the most important thing is to quickly condense the crystallized mana. The more grains, the better. Therefore, although it is difficult to condense the mutated thunder attribute mana under many conditions, I still succeeded in breaking through. Chapter 5:13. After Zhao Qingtian heard Lu Kuan's description, he muttered, "So, me and junior apprentice brother Yu Xian have the lowest chance of breaking through, and little Yen has the highest chance of breaking through." The other disciples' expressions also changed. Although they had a good relationship with their fellow apprentices, to suddenly have such a huge gap in aptitude caused some subtle emotions to arise in their hearts. Lu Kuan had already expected this. His lungs vibrated slightly, and he let out a cold snort that went deep into his eardrums. This is just one of the natural endowments. It's innate and cannot be changed. However, this is far from enough for a body cultivator to go far. This cold snort suddenly pulled everyone back, and they all looked at the founder of body cultivation. I already told you that willpower is the most important aptitude. Even if it is me, if I cannot endure the pain during the process of breaking through, then I will not be able to break through to foundation establishment. That's right, if one's willpower was not strong enough and could not endure the pain, then let alone entering the bone treasure stage, they would not even be able to enter the bone tempering stage. At this moment, the 5 disciples immediately realized what was going on. Zhao Qingtian's face was serious as he said, "Master, don't worry. This disciple is only a bit disappointed. In the future, I will definitely work harder." Pan Yin scratched his head and said, "Master, I will work hard to train my willpower." Lu Kuan nodded and continued, "You don't need to cultivate in the blood condensation stage. But after entering the viscera forging stage, time waits for no one. Presumably, you all know that age also has an influence on a body cultivator's breakthrough. Alright, let's return to the previous conversion ratio. According to this ratio, I plan to divide the body cultivator's physique into various ranks. If the conversion ratio is 1, then it will be a 1-star physique, and so on until it reaches a 9-star physique. Qingtian and Yuxian have 3-star physiques, Shui Er has 4-star physiques, and Little Yun and Little Yen have special physique. They are 5 and 6-star physiques respectively. This is different from the spiritual roots of traditional cultivators. The highest level of spiritual roots is the celestial spiritual root. There is no bottleneck when breaking through to the core formation stage. Even with my 9-star physique, there is a possibility of failure when breaking through. Lu Kuan's eyes flashed. He said, I've entered the bone treasure stage. My soul has undergone an obvious transformation, and my lifespan has increased greatly. I should be the same as core formation stage cultivators, reaching 500 years. The reason I'm talking to you about body refinement is because I'll be spending time recruiting second-generation disciples and researching all kinds of body refinement methods. You'll also have some free time in the blood condensation realm, so you can give pointers to the next-generation disciples. This will be very helpful to your body refinement art. The eyes of the first-generation body cultivators below flashed, and they seemed to be a little excited. The disciples' eyes were filled with excitement. That's great. Master is finally going to show off his skills. The body refining pavilion is going to be lively soon. Huang Xiaoyun pointed to the sky with one hand and placed the other on his waist. Haha, over 100 body tempering cultivators. Who in Chu country would be able to compete with them? Master, why are you flicking me? Lu Kuan looked at the inexplicably excited disciples with a headache. He shook his head and said, Don't think too much. I only plan to recruit 25 second-generation disciples. Each of you will teach 5. When you've all entered the bone treasure stage, and Master's battle prowess is close to that of nascent soul stage cultivators, then it will be time to develop the third-generation disciples. When most of the third-generation disciples enter the bone-tempering stage and above, then it will be time for my body-refining pavilion to truly appear. Zhao Qingtian and the others were fascinated. At that time, their body-refining pavilion's overall strength would completely surpass that of the Yang clan. It might even be comparable to the bottom 10 great sects of Chu country. Therefore, the selection of the second-generation disciples is very important. These 25 people will be the cornerstone of the sect in the future. Whether it's body refinement aptitude, temperament, or willpower, they can't be too weak. Hearing this, Zhao Qingtian seemed to have thought of something. He asked, Master, do you have a method to determine what star physique they have? Lu Kuan nodded with a smile and said, This method is very simple. We only need to control a trace of transcendence energy and enter a mortal's bone marrow cavity. According to the method of the body refining technique, we can sense the proportion of spiritual energy in their blood. You're all in the blood condensation stage. This method is just right for you to use. Master will teach you later. Then Lu Kuan said with a serious expression, compared to body refinement aptitude, what's more important is temperament and willpower. I've already thought of where to find these disciples. Where? Lu Kuan smiled mysteriously. His lips moved slightly. He used the divine sense sound transmission technique of core formation stage cultivators and gave a simple description to the disciples. As soon as Huang Xiaoyun finished listening, he excitedly said, Brilliant, Master, this method of yours is too brilliant. Haha. The other disciples were also excited. They couldn't wait to go out and recruit disciples. Lu Kuan smiled and said, All right, I've told you the general situation of the bone treasure stage. In the future, I will go to the outer sea alone. I have to fulfill the promise I made to the Black Mountain Ape clan. As for you guys, just change your appearance and body shape slightly. Go to the Abyss Island to inquire about the situation. The 5 years agreed with Senior Sister Du is almost up. Zhao Qingtian was puzzled. The Abyss Island? That's right, except for Senior Sister Du, everyone is here. Xiao Yan didn't explain clearly before. Lu Kuan was puzzled. Did you guys just come back? Seeing that they nodded, Lu Kuan continued, later, I'll let Xiao Yan tell you everything clearly. Then, other than the matter of the treasure pavilion on the Abyss Island, you also need to know about the 10 great sects of Chu Zhao Qingtian, and the others' eyes lit up. They replied in unison, Yes, Master. All right, for the rest of the time, let's talk about what we've learned over the years, as well as the problems we've encountered in battle. Qingtian, you go first. Zhao Qingtian organized his words and said, A few years ago, the 4 of us went directly to the kingdom of Qi. Then, the first generation of body cultivators began to discuss their experiences over the years, and promptly raised some of the problems they'd encountered in battle and cultivation. During the discussion, Lu Kuan not only answered their questions, but also learned a lot. Some of the techniques they'd comprehended in battle were very helpful to him. After all, everyone's fighting habits were different, and the enemies they faced were different. They all had many techniques that pushed their bodies to the limit. Even Pan Yen had some gains in the past few years on Demon Spirit Island. Regarding the combination of spells and body cultivation, although body cultivation mainly relied on the body and magic treasures, spells could sometimes bring about different effects. Just like that, the group of people discussed in Lu Kuan's abode for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, they dispersed with satisfaction. Lu Kuan flew directly to Qin Yushu's abode. As their cultivation deepened, their refining techniques had reached the level of spiritual artifact. For body cultivators at the treasure bone stage, the arcane energy in their body was only used to nourish their bones and ensure that the treasure bone would eventually take shape. They didn't need to spend energy on refining new artifacts. Chapter 514. A month later, a silver spirit shuttle carrying several figures appeared on the uninhabited chaotic ocean. It was very conspicuous on the surface of the ocean that was mixed with 3 different colors of fog. The leader of the spirit shuttle, a burly man, gave a few instructions to the others. Then, he turned into a dazzling purple light and flew in a certain direction. Then, the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle was controlled by a heroic young man and shot in another direction. They were Zhao Qingtian and the others. After a month of rest, they once again went out to complete Lu Kuan's mission. During this time, Shui Air successfully condensed an ice attribute imprint, becoming the second body cultivator to cultivate a variant body refinement art. Her strength suddenly increased greatly, and all of her attacks carried the ice attribute. As for the others, they had also comprehended their own magic imprint. And just as Lu Kuan said, they had only just condensed the magic imprints for their arms. Their bodies were not strong enough, so they couldn't condense the magic imprints for their legs. With the imprints, they could feel that the time they spent in the blood condensation realm would be greatly shortened. It was completely different from when Lu Kuan first condensed the lightning seal. They condensed it directly in their bones. In the blood condensation realm, these people began to impart attributes to their bones, laying a solid foundation. After the few of them had condensed their seals, with Lu Kuan and Qin Yushu's experience with the attribute seals, as well as Yu Xiaofeng's understanding of the Star Moon Pavilion's 5 elements 8 trigrams formation, they had some understanding of the joint attack technique. With some other methods, Lu Kuan was more assured that they would go to the Abyss Island. Although it was very likely that there would be new core formation cultivators from the Miraculous Gate, these disciples had changed their appearance and wouldn't be so easily recognized. Not to mention Zhao Qingtian and the others, Lu Kuan turned into an extremely fast streak of light and flew on the surface of the ocean. When he was at the great circle of body tempering, he could already fly. Now that he had reached the treasure bone stage, his speed was even faster. One had to know that the bones in his body were filled with the mana of the completion level and were slowly transforming into a magic treasure. It could be said that he was like a flying magic treasure in human form. Of course, his speed was much faster than a normal completion level cultivator. That was why Lu Kuan gave the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle to Zhao Qingtian and the others. His maximum speed was close to the late core formation stage. It didn't matter whether he had the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle or not. His current art of flight, in other words, was art of flight on bone treasures. Similar to art of flight on equipment, it did not consume a lot of magic power. Lu Kuan muttered to himself as he looked in the direction of the outer sea. I wonder how Dahe and the others are doing. The old gibbon said that it would be within 100 years. Now, almost 50 years have passed. Plus, they've restricted the movements of our people before, so there shouldn't be any danger. Furthermore, with the help of my essence blood, a few more Class 5 Black Mountain apes will appear on the island. Then, he thought about the psychic magic treasure that he and Qin Yushu had discussed. Actually, the Yang clan's psychic magic treasures are not only the psychic magic treasures, but also the psychic magic puppet art. The only thing missing is some inscription arrays for low-end psychic magic treasures. Fortunately, the psychic jade pendant gave senior apprentice brother Qin a great deal of inspiration. Combining the two together, he was able to comprehend some refining technique. He can barely refine the meteorite rod into a psychic magic treasure. Although I have the power of a core formation cultivator, and my divine sense is very strong, I can refine the meteorite rod. However, the materials required are too rare. Other than the 3 elements of water, fire, and wood, I also need materials of the thunder element. Only when these materials are combined with the Silver Dragon meteorite can the power of the thunder element psychic magic treasure be unleashed. For the water element, the sea bear bone of Class 6 and above should be barely enough. I remember that the sea bear beast is a pure water element demon beast. It also has the specialty of strength. The essence of its entire body can be used as a water element material. Lu Kuan stroked his chin and thought, the sea bear beast is the biggest enemy of the Black Mountain apes. When I go back, I will ask the old ape to tell me the location of the sea bear beast. I will find a way to hunt one of Class 6 and above. Then, he said with a headache, the best fire element material is the top-grade fiery sunstone. This fiery sunstone is usually found in the depths of volcanoes. It is very difficult to find. Even the Abyss auction house rarely sees it. There is also the wood element material. It is best if it is a spiritual wood that is more than 1,000 years old. Even the common iron wood is a precious treasure if it is more than 1,000 years old. Lu Kuan looked at the sky and sighed. The hardest thing to find is the thunder element material. If I was still in the Yang clan, I would definitely have it in the clan's collection. I just need enough contribution points and spiritual stones. But now I can only find it myself. Psychic magic treasures were all powerful magic treasures with a single ability. Each of them could unleash a magical ability to the extreme. The psychic jade pendant from before was purely for defense. Chapter 5:15. At the bottom of the sea, Lu Kuan sent a message to the little monkey in his arms with his spiritual sense. His expression was unsightly. Why can't there be any sounds from the apes? Xiao Jin, did you sense wrongly? Xiao Jin's eyes were filled with anxiety as she shook her head. Lu Kuan was rather nervous. Xiao Jin's ability shouldn't be wrong. Could it be that the old ape and the others have moved their tribe due to some special circumstances? Immediately after, he rejected this idea. This crescent moon island was usually shrouded in a natural fog. It was very hidden in the outer sea. Furthermore, the demonic beasts in the outer sea all knew that this was the territory of the Black Mountain ape. If they were to suddenly change their location, they might even get into a conflict with other demonic beasts. It's best to be careful. Immediately after, he and Xiao Jin tried their best to restrain the undulations in their bodies. They used their physical strength to control the arrow-shaped fish beneath them and slowly swam towards Crescent Moon Island. As they got closer and closer to the island, Lu Kuan's heart slowly sank. In the past, he could completely sense the aura of the Dahe from this distance. However, he did not discover anything now. Looking at Xiao Jin again, the little monkey's face was extremely pale. He had a bad feeling about this. When they were close to the shore of the island, Lu Kuan gave up on the fish and slowly swam upwards. He carefully used his spiritual sense to investigate the surroundings with obscure undulations. There are no living creatures on the shore. Let's investigate further. Now that Lu Kuan's spiritual sense had reached the peak of the middle stage of the core formation stage, he could investigate everything within a radius of 15 kilometers. What's the situation? Countless trees have fallen on the island. There are shattered rocks and trees everywhere. Lu Kuan's expression changed drastically. His spiritual sense had already investigated almost half of the island clearly. He discovered that there were traces of battle everywhere. Furthermore, there were many spider webs on some of the fallen tree branches. It was obvious that they had been here for a period of time. Could it be that the sea bear tribe attacked the black mountain apes while I was in seclusion? Lu Kuan leaped up from the sea and flew directly to the mountain peak deep within Crescent Moon Island. He remembered very clearly that after he left, the old gibbon had gathered all the black mountain apes to live deep within the island. Only by looking at the situation there would he know what had happened. As Lu Kuan went deeper, his expression became more and more unsightly. Suddenly, his eyebrows twitched. He descended and appeared at the foot of a mountain in the depths of the island. Golden light flashed in his eyes. He waved his hand and a broken blade flew out from a crack in the rocks at the foot of the mountain. Magic weapon. Immortal cultivators. Creak creak. The little monkey, who was in Lu Kuan's arms, jumped down and pointed at the stone with a sorrowful expression. Boom! Lu Kuan flashed and arrived next to the huge rock. With a light punch, he smashed the rock into pieces. Then, his hand flashed and a small ball of powder flew into his hand. There were dark red marks on the rock foam. Feeling the familiar bloodline aura, Lu Kuan muttered, "The blood of the Black Mountain Apes. Xiao Jin, let's go up the mountain and go to the old gibbon's water curtain cave abode." After saying that, he grabbed the little monkey and shot directly toward the waterfall on the mountain. On the way, he found many broken pieces of magic weapons and some dried bloodstains. However, he did not find any Black Mountain apes' corpses or even monkey hair. Instead, he saw some broken robes of human cultivators and traces of various spells. Soon, Lu Kuan crossed the waterfall and entered the cave. At this moment, the cave was completely different from what he had seen before. All kinds of broken stones were scattered on the ground, and there was a layer of dust on them. It seemed that no one had come here for a while. Lu Kuan's mood became heavier. It seems that the old gibbon and the others were surrounded by human cultivators. Could it be that they were all wiped out? That's impossible. From the old gibbon's tone, it has the skills of a level 8 monster beast. Even a nascent soul cultivator might not be able to take it down. There must be some Black Mountain apes that survived. Just as Lu Kuan was thinking, Xiao Jin's eyes suddenly lit up. It squeaked and walked toward the deepest part of the cave. Lu Kuan's face lit up and he followed Xiao Jin. After a few flashes, they arrived at the deepest part of the cave. The old withered tree here had disappeared, revealing a small pit about 7 feet deep. It seemed that the withered tree had been pulled out by someone. Lu Kuan scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and found that there were no traces of battle. However, a layer of the stone wall had been shaved off and all the patterns on it had been erased. "Xiao Jin, you said that there was the aura of Dahe's bloodline here. After entering, I still haven't felt it. Where is it? Lu Kuan looked at Xiao Jin and asked doubtfully. The little monkey scratched its head and pricked up its ears. Golden light flashed incessantly on its ears. Then, it stared at the old withered tree's original location and pointed at the empty pit and squeaked. Could it be below here? But there's only dirt and rocks below. Lu Kuan's core formation stage divine sense easily probed the area below. There were no living things below. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Jin still insisted on pointing there. Could it be that there's another world below? After muttering to himself for a while, Lu Kuan jumped into the small hole. A layer of purple shield appeared where his hands were pressed against his skin, and he began to dig. With his physical strength of 200,000 kilograms, his digging speed was not inferior to any Earth attribute magic technique. Soon, he had dug more than 3 meters deep. Clang! The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Lu Kuan felt as if his hands had hit something hard and he grabbed it. It's a bit like a tree trunk. It's wrinkled. Then, he exerted force and pulled it out. Boom boom. This tree trunk seemed to be very long. In an instant, the entire cave shook slightly. Even with Lu Kuan's terrifying strength, he could only pull it out a few inches. Strange. Lu Kuan didn't believe it. He stimulated the blood in his body, and his arms suddenly became thicker. Blue veins pulsed on his arms, looking incomparably ferocious. The bones in his arms also expanded greatly. Boom boom boom. This tree trunk-like thing was finally pulled out slowly by Lu Kuan. The surrounding ground of the cave was trembling. However, because his legs were placed on the small pit, they sank as he pushed off. After pulling this mysterious thing out a few feet, Lu Kuan stopped. At this moment, a large number of cracks appeared on the ground nearby. Squeak squeak. Xiao Jin, I also feel it. There's a familiar aura under these cracks. It should be the Dahe. Lu Kuan's face lit up with joy. He immediately began to dig along the cracks in the ground. Xiao Jin's body expanded and turned into an ape the size of an ordinary person. His claws emitted a yellow glow as he helped Lu Kuan to dig. Just like that, a quarter of an hour had passed. At the bottom of the cave, intertwined tree roots were gradually dug out. Between the tree roots, there was a layer of pale green light that connected together. Lu Kuan's core formation stage spiritual sense was simply unable to sense it. Lu Kuan's golden light flashed incessantly. Only then did he barely manage to pass through the cover of the withered tree roots and discover the bodies of dozens of apes below. Most of them were little monkey about the same size as Xiao Jin. Only 4 of them were strong chimpanzees. Except for one with pure black hair, the other 3 were lying motionless below. The chimpanzee with pure black hair raised his head and looked at Lu Kuan's position. Chapter 516. Dahe! Lu Kuan cried out involuntarily. His original surprise immediately turned into worry. However, he had no way to break through this layer of green light shield formed by the withered tree root. He could only continue to pull out the tree roots with all his strength. Lu Kuan fully activated the power linking arms. He didn't blindly pull out the tree roots in one breath. Instead, he circled around the tree roots and pulled out those small roots that didn't require much effort. The reason why this huge withered tree root was so exhausting was because there were so many small roots that were as hard as metal. Even after activating the power linking arms, Lu Kuan still couldn't pull them out in one breath. Not long after, the outer circle of tiny roots left the soil below, and the green light shield gradually dissipated. At this time, Lu Kuan once again came to the center of the roots, which was the original small hole. He suddenly exerted his strength, and in the trembling sound of the cave, he pulled out the huge withered tree root from the ground and threw it to the side, revealing the space below. Below the tree root was a round hole with a diameter of more than 6 feet. Occupying the largest space in the hole were 4 6 to 7 feet long black mountain ape. Lu Kuan recognized two of them. One was Dahe and the other was Xiaoliang. He also had some impression of the other two. The rest of the space was filled with little Xiaojin-sized apes. These little apes looked peaceful, and their stomachs were slightly moving up and down. Obviously, they were still alive. Then, he carefully observed the four gorillas Dahe. There are still signs of life. Lu Kuan breathed a sigh of relief, and continued to use his divine sense to examine the bodies of the adult black ape. How can this be? His face was full of disbelief. Their bodies are actually this weak, like a beast that hasn't eaten for a long time. The amount of fat in their bodies is extremely low, and even their muscles have begun to shrink. The demonic spiritual energy in their bodies has also dried up. A Class 5 demonic beast is actually on the verge of starvation? The other chimpanzees were even weaker than Dahe, and Dahe was in a better state than them. Lu Kuan couldn't care about anything else. He jumped down and stuffed a fasting pill into each of the four chimpanzees' mouth. Although this pill was for human cultivators, it contained a large amount of basic food ingredients, which was very suitable for these four demonic beasts who hadn't eaten for a long time. Generally speaking, when a human cultivator reached the foundation establishment stage and a demonic beast reached the second level, they would reach the stage of fasting. Even if they did not eat, the liquid manna in their bodies would be able to provide nourishment for their bodies. Looking at the many little gorillas that were still alive, Lu Kuan roughly understood why Dahe and the others were like this. They must be injecting their spiritual energy into these little guys to maintain their lives. These black mountain apes must have fainted because they were unable to absorb any spirit chi from the outside world. Could it be that this withered tree root has the effect of isolating spirit chi? Or rather, it's because they don't dare to absorb any spirit chi from the outside world. Thinking of this, Lu Kuan's expression changed. He lifted his robe and revealed 7 to 8 spirit beast pouches on his waist. Following that, a purple light enveloped all the black mountain apes below. These apes turned into rays of light and entered his waist. Other than the 4 gorillas that could only be placed in 1 spirit beast pouch each, the other little guys were not demonic beasts. 1 spirit beast pouch could hold 10 to 20 of them. Xiaojin, come here. Let's leave as soon as possible. When Lu Kuan pulled out the withered tree root, at the bottom of the sea not too far away from the Crescent Moon Island, 2 pieces of white sand suddenly trembled, revealing 2 7 to 8 feet tall strong white bears that were slightly different in size. These 2 bear-type demonic beasts had a look of joy in their eyes. They looked at each other and quickly swam in the direction of the Crescent Moon Island. Their burly bodies were very agile in the sea, and their swimming speed was extremely fast. Following the movement of these 2 demonic beasts, the surrounding fishes scurried away as if they were frightened. It was as if these 2 white bears were their natural enemies. Very soon, they were close to the Crescent Moon Island. At this moment, one of the white bears that was slightly smaller in size changed its direction and swam upwards. Not long after, it rushed out of the sea surface. Following that, this white bear flew in the air and shot towards its target. To be able to fly in the air, this white bear was clearly a demonic beast that was at least Class 5. Not long after this white bear came out of the sea surface, there was a purple light in front of it on the island. It was right in its direction. Class 5 sea bear beast. A deep male voice could be heard from the light. His tone was mixed with surprise and disappointment, which stunned the white bear. This white bear was the sea bear beast that was lying in ambush nearby. It had just sensed the aura of the treasure that its leader had been searching for. It thought that the black mountain apes that were hiding on the island had appeared. It did not expect to encounter a human cultivator first. Furthermore, based on the aura of human cultivators that it was familiar with, it could easily tell that this person was at the early core formation stage, which was the same as its own cultivation. However, this man's tone confused it. In this sea, human cultivators of the same level were no match for it. What was there to be surprised about? What was there to be disappointed about? It should be fear. At this moment, the man's purple light turned into a bolt of lightning and shot towards it in midair. He even raised two fists that were only slightly bigger than its toes and punched towards it. The sea bear beast was one of the most intelligent demonic beasts in the outer sea. When it saw this scene, it immediately felt that it was ridiculous. A human cultivator with a weak physical body was actually using his fists to attack a sea beast that was known for its strength? A bloodthirsty light flashed in the sea bear beast's eyes. It did not dodge. Instead, it stood up in midair and raised its huge bare paws that were flashing with dense demonic spiritual energy. Accompanied by the sound of the air breaking, it fiercely swung its paws at the human's fists. Bang! The seawater below the man and the sea bear beast seemed to be under great pressure. It was squeezed into a semicircular hole by an invisible force. Roar! A painful roar came from the sea bear beast's mouth. Its eyes were filled with panic. This was because it felt an incomparably majestic strength from the human cultivator. It was even stronger than its own. The enormous strength directly sent it flying. This man with astonishing strength was naturally Lu Kuan, who had just left Crescent Moon Island. However, he seemed to be unable to withstand the sea bear beast's attack and was also sent flying. This attack seemed to be on par with the other. At this moment, an even larger sea bear beast suddenly rushed out from the seawater below Lu Kuan's feet. Its fan-sized bare paws carried an even stronger aura as it fiercely slammed towards him. Lu Kuan turned pale with fright. It seemed that he only had time to turn around. He barely managed to block the attack with his arms. After that, he spat out a trace of blood and his entire body fell towards the shore of Crescent Moon Island. This sea bear beast that suddenly appeared had a monstrous demonic aura. Its dense demonic spiritual energy was even stronger than the first one. It was obvious that it was a level 6 sea bear beast. The strength that such a high-level demonic beast could display in the sea was not inferior to a late core formation stage cultivator. The two demonic beasts were actually so sinister. One of them purposely appeared in the air, and the other in the seawater. Their goal was to paralyze and ambush their opponent. Now that they saw Lu Kuan spitting out blood and falling, they immediately chased after him and rushed towards the shore to kill their opponent. Chapter 5:17. At the same time that the two sea bears shot towards Lu Kuan, they used their spiritual sense to sense the human cultivator in front of them. They discovered that his aura had become unstable and his face was somewhat pale, as if he had been seriously injured. The Class 6 sea bear's eyes flashed with greed. It sped up a bit and rushed towards Lu Kuan, who was half lying on the beach. Its huge bare paws were aimed at his head and abdomen. It planned to kill its opponent and take out his golden core. As long as it took the golden core of the core formation cultivator, there would be no share for the other sea bear. Just as the powerful sea bear was about to smash the human head into meat paste, the heavily injured enemy in its eyes suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes flickered with a scorching light. How could this be the eyes of a heavily injured person? It was like a cat seeing a mouse, an eagle seeing a rabbit, or a hunter seeing his prey. At the same time, the golden light in his eyes made the Class 6 sea bear feel an indescribable panic. But before it could do anything, the arm that looked like an ordinary human's rapidly expanded like a balloon. Waves of ferocious chi and magic power surged on it. Paw! The malevolent huge arm grabbed one of the sea bear's arms. The human cultivator's swollen palm was no smaller than the bear's paw. It firmly held the sea bear in place, and the sea bear was unable to break free for a while. Soon after, the Class 6 sea bear felt an irresistible force coming from the hand of the non-human. Then, it felt dizzy and its head collided with the head of another Class 5 sea bear that was rushing towards it. Bang! The two sturdy sea bears collided. The Class 5 sea bear's head suffered a terrifying blow of more than 200,000 pounds. Its vision turned black and it fell to the side. It staggered and was unable to get up for a while. The Class 6 sea bear was powerful and its body was stronger than the smaller one. Even with the support of Lu Kuan's terrifying strength, it was only injured. It wasn't that easy to faint. Bang! The Class 6 sea bear was directly thrown onto the beach. It was pressed under the beach by a terrifying force. Then, the pair of hands that it couldn't resist released its bare paw. Joy flashed in the eyes of the Class 6 sea bear as it let out a roar. Dense demonic spiritual energy circulated around its body, and it was about to jump up from the beach. Then, a lightning fist that was only slightly smaller than its head fell from the sky, accompanied by the sound of air exploding, and blasted towards its head. Clang! A crisp sound of metal clashing could be heard, causing the demon bear to see stars. It could even hear the sound of bones cracking from its skull. The demon's spiritual force that was circulating within its body froze. The pair of gigantic lightning fists crisscrossed back and forth. Boundless chi and core formation stage mana coiled around the sinister arms. Boom, 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 boom. Lu Kuan unwaveringly bombarded the demon bear's head with punch after punch. After 7 to 8 punches, the demon bear's aura gradually dissipated. The exuberant chi and blood inside also dimmed. The Class 5 sea bear at the side stared with its bell-like eyes. It had just recovered from the dizziness and coincidentally witnessed the last ferocious attack. It unconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Without saying anything, the demon's spiritual force on its body flashed, and it directly flew towards the sea. The sea bear's limbs were developed, but its intelligence was extremely high. Just by the sound of the ground shaking and air exploding from the punches, the Class 5 sea bear knew that it was no match for this human. If it didn't escape, it would be dead for sure. As long as it escaped into the sea, the human cultivator wouldn't be able to catch it. Rumble! Just when it was about 3 meters away from the sea, a thunderous roar suddenly sounded in the ears of this escaping 5th-level sea bear. Then, it felt its right leg being grabbed by a pair of iron hoop palms, and a force that it could not resist fiercely dragged it back. Roar! Boom, boom, boom! Accompanied by the heart-trembling sounds and the miserable cries of the sea bear, more than half of the sand on the beach was trembling, as if it was trembling. After 4 to 5 explosions, the life force of the Class 5 sea bear disappeared, and the beach returned to normal. Lu Kuan dispersed the chi and blood energy on his arm and withdrew the arm connection technique. His face was slightly pale as he said, "My efforts were not in vain. Luckily, I've seen how cunning these sea bears are on the Demon Island. I lured them to the shore and then attacked with all my strength." Then, he smirked and looked at the 2 sea bears below, especially the Class 6 one. "I thought that there were human cultivators lying in ambush nearby. That's why Dahe and the others didn't dare to absorb chi to avoid being discovered. Who knew that it was actually the sea bears that were lying in ambush?" It turned out that in the water curtain cave, Lu Kuan saw the situation of Dahe and the others. He knew that the withered tree root was one of the old ape's methods to hide the remaining black mountain ape. The old ape's intelligence was no less than that of humans. It knew that hiding Dahe and the others here would be safer. And the withered tree root was some kind of magical treasure that could conceal its presence. Even with Lu Kuan's divine sense that was comparable to the peak of the middle core formation stage, he couldn't detect it. Even the golden eye technique couldn't see through it. And the condition of Dahe and the others made Lu Kuan suspect that there were some enemies lying in ambush nearby, which caused them to not dare to absorb chi. He simply left the Crescent Moon Island as soon as possible. Lu Kuan didn't expect that when he got close to the seaside, he would discover 2 sea bears in the sea. Through the golden eye technique, he even saw their cunning tricks, one in the open and the other in the dark. Lu Kuan then used a little trick to lure them to the shore. Finally, he activated the arm technique with all his strength and killed them. Lu Kuan rubbed his arm and muttered, "I didn't get hit in vain. If I fought with these sea bears on the surface of the sea, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to keep them here. My lightning escape technique is too slow in the water. I didn't expect the defense of the bones of the treasure bone stage to be so strong. Just now, the strength of the level 6 sea bear was close to 200,000 pounds, but it only damaged my muscles. Now I should have no problem taking on ordinary magic treasures. A light screen flashed in his hand, and the bodies of the 2 sea bears on the ground were stored in his storage bag. Then, he shot out 2 fireballs and burned the blood on the beach clean. After that, he planned to fly away. But just as Lu Kuan raised his Li in his body, he suddenly frowned and changed his mind. He jumped into the sea. He concealed all his presence, and like how he came here, he found a sea fish demon beast at the bottom of the sea and swam out. Sitting on the sea fish, Lu Kuan felt the Li in his bones and fell into deep thought. In such a short battle, why did I consume so much Li? Now I only have half Li left in my body. Previously, when he used all his strength to activate the arm-linking divine ability, the strength of the arm-linking divine ability was close to 300,000 pounds. Together with his palm bone fist, which was close to the magic treasure grade, he suppressed the level 6 sea bear and finally smashed its head. Who knew that just when he was about to fly away, he found that his Li had silently consumed so much. One must know that this was the vigorous Li of the core-bearing stage. Could it be the arm-linking divine ability? After entering the treasure bone stage, the arm-linking divine ability also increased my strength by 50%. Now my basic strength is 200,000 pounds, and 50% is 100,000 pounds. The arm-linking divine ability increased my strength by so much, so it's reasonable that it increased my Li consumption. He thought. I should go back to the Demon Spirit Island first and figure out the things about Dahe and the others. Then, I will study the changes of the arm-linking divine ability during the treasure bone stage. Chapter 518. From the moment Lu Kuan discovered the 2 sea bears to the moment he killed them, it only took less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn. If other cultivators were to witness him killing level 5 and 6 beasts so quickly, they would definitely be dumbfounded. However, Lu Kuan himself did not feel anything. When he was in the viscera forging stage, he was able to kill Zhai Xingzi, who had just entered the core formation stage. After reaching the great circle of body tempering, with the help of his fellow disciples, he even killed 3 veteran core formation stage cultivators. Now that he had reached the bone treasure stage, which was comparable to the core formation stage, it was very normal for him to easily kill cultivators of the same level. These 2 sea bears were very unlucky. First, they were pretended to be weak by Lu Kuan. Then, they did not expect that Lu Kuan's physical strength, supported by the power of arm's divine ability, would completely crush them. In the end, their heads were forcefully blown apart. If they were to fight with Lu Kuan in the sea, although they would not be able to defeat him, they would at least be able to preserve their lives. This short battle was the first time Lu Kuan used his full strength after entering the bone treasure stage. Under the power of arm's divine ability, the power of arm's divine ability was incomparably terrifying. The strength of his bare hands reached the level of 300,000 jin. Because of this, he discovered a few flaws of the power of arm's divine ability in battle. Not long after Lu Kuan left, on the shore of Crescent Moon Island, a burly man with a bare nose and a human face appeared. His body surged with a monstrous aura that soared to the sky. The burly man's bare nose twitched slightly. His body flashed with a yellow light and he appeared beside a small hole on the beach. Damn it, who killed 2 of my clansmen? The burly man slightly probed and sensed the aura of death of the 2 sea bears. He roared furiously. Then, a huge force of divine sense spread out from his body. With Crescent Moon Island as the center, it spread out in all directions. 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, all the way until 50 miles. Other than a few ordinary beasts, there was no other powerful aura. Impossible. With my speed, the culprit would not be able to escape from my detection range in such a short period of time. The burly man's eyes flashed fiercely. Everyone in this area knows the strength of my sea bear. If a Class 8 demonic beast doesn't attack, could it be a human nascent soul stage cultivator? When he thought of this, the burly man calmed down instead. He retracted his divine sense and probed towards the center of Crescent Moon Island. He immediately discovered the changes in the cave behind the waterfall. His expression changed, and he turned into a yellow light. Soon, he arrived at the cave. Looking at the large hole in the ground and sensing the various auras in the air, his expression became even more unsightly. It really is the demonic soul tree. That old gorilla is really cunning. He actually hid the demonic soul tree root in the original place. I didn't even notice it back then. There are still traces of humans in the air. Then, the burly man stretched out his palms, and 10 black fingernails fell off from his hands. They were evenly distributed on the ground of the cave, and then they smashed downwards. Boom boom, a cloud of dust filled the air, and in the blink of an eye, a hole several feet deep appeared in the cave. It was empty inside, except for some traces of root. It seems that the nascent soul stage cultivator took away the demonic soul tree. The only ones who knew about this treasure and personally took action could only be those old fellows from the 2 sections. The burly man gritted his teeth and said, "I haven't settled the score with them for the Black Mountain Ape. Now they even took away the demonic soul tree that my clan needs. They really think that my Sea Bear clan is easy to bully." The burly man checked the other side of the cave, but he didn't find any traces. Then, he angrily shot towards a direction outside the island. When the burly man released his divine sense to check, Lu Kuan's nerves on the bottom of the sea had goosebumps. His heart trembled. With the senses of his body, he knew that this divine sense was far beyond the core formation stage. It must have reached the nascent soul stage. Just the pressure on his nerves made him feel that he was invincible. However, this divine sense didn't seem to have discovered him, and it just swept past him. Luckily, I ended the battle quickly. Otherwise, if I was a little late, I might have to face a nascent soul stage cultivator. Could it be a Class 8 sea bear that rushed here so quickly? The more Lu Kuan thought about it, the more likely it was. This was because as long as something happened on Crescent Moon Island, the Class 6 and Class 6 sea bears hiding nearby would have discovered it. As long as they stopped it for a while and waited for the Class 8 sea bear to arrive, there would be no mistakes. A sea bear and traces of a battle between human cultivators. I have to go back and ask the Dahe properly. If the Class 8 sea bear is so concerned about it, there must be a purpose. In order to prevent the Class 8 sea bear from checking again, Lu Kuan didn't rush to fly away. He slowly wandered around the bottom of the sea like this. It took him more than a month to reach the inner sea. After entering the inner sea, he swam out of the sea surface with a few spiritual stones in each hand. As he flew in the direction of the chaotic ocean, he grabbed a few spiritual stones to recover the mana in his body. Ever since he condensed the lightning strike in his bones, Lu Kuan's mana recovery speed had increased by a lot. During this flight, his mana recovery speed was greater than his mana consumption. After his mana recovered, he flew at full speed. The journey was quite smooth. It took him a few days to reach Demon Spirit Island. After throwing a voice transmission talisman to Zhu Xiaofeng and the others, Lu Kuan plunged into the depths of the Demon Chi area. Compared to a few decades ago, this area had changed a lot. First, there were many more fruit trees. Second, there was an additional river that flowed down from the central mountain peak. After many years of hard work by Little Panyan, it crossed the Demon Chi area. Moreover, there were some highly intelligent wild beasts in the outer area. Following their instincts, many of them entered the demon chi area to live, bringing a lot of vitality to this area. Lu Kuan directly went to the forest where the demon chi was the thickest. He patted his waist and many black mountain apes of various sizes appeared on the ground. Xiao Jin was also released by Lu Kuan. The little monkey immediately rushed to the group of apes with a worried expression. Lu Kuan comforted it, "Xiao Jin, don't worry. Dahei and the others are fine. They've just overdrawn their bodies. The demon chi here is dense, so they'll recover soon." Hearing this, the little monkey's expression softened. It sat beside Dahei and looked at the apes that were related to it by blood. Lu Kuan silently looked at this scene. He couldn't help but recall the promise he made with the old ape. That senior seemed to have expected that the Black Mountain apes would have such a day. However, it's not enough to rely on just the dried tree root of that hidden tribesman. We need someone to rescue Dahei and the others from outside. He looked at Xiao Jin again. That senior definitely knows what kind of demon ape Xiao Jin's bloodline is. He also knows that he can sense Dahei and the others. In this way, as long as I return to Crescent Moon Island, I'll definitely be able to find the remaining Black Mountain ape. However, Senior, you did not expect that, due to certain reasons, the human cultivators would attack the Black Mountain ape. Due to that, there was a delay in the timing. If I hadn't broken through so quickly, that stubborn fellow Big Blackie would have died from exhaustion. Then, Lu Kuan thought of something. He channeled his dermic powers. A yellow light flashed and a huge dried tree root appeared on the ground beside him. In the middle was a broken part of the tree trunk, as if it had been forcefully broken by someone. When I first saw this dried tree, I didn't see anything strange. I didn't expect it to have such a concealment ability. I wonder what kind of spiritual wood it is. Just as he was mumbling, the demon chi in the surroundings suddenly surged and gathered towards the dried tree root. Chapter 519. Not long after the withered tree's roots dug into the ground, all the trees within 100 feet of the tree withered and turned into a pile of powder that drifted into the air. It was as if all the life energy inside had been sucked dry. Then, the only part of the withered tree's trunk that was exposed outside became lively again. Without needing any other words to describe it, Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin felt that the mysterious tree in front of them had come alive from its original withered state. As the surrounding trees withered, the demonic aura that had entered the withered tree gradually calmed down. Under the influence of a mysterious force, the demonic aura gathered toward the unconscious Dahei and the other Black Mountain ape. Dahei's body was just too exhausted. Moreover, Lu Kuan had fed it a fasting pill when he first found it. Now that it was nourished by the rich demonic aura, it gradually regained consciousness. Dahei saw Xiao Jin's worried expression as soon as it opened its eyes. It then noticed that Lu Kuan was beside it and immediately roared anxiously. It even raised its hands and waved them around as if it wanted Lu Kuan to leave quickly. However, its body had just regained consciousness and its muscles were still stiff. It fell as soon as it stood up. "Dahei, it's all right. We're far away from Crescent Moon Island now. We're safe." Lu Kuan comforted it. Only then did Big Blackie look around. There were not many of his tribesmen left, and they were all still alive. The place where he was now was filled with dense demonic chi, slowly nourishing his and his tribesmen's exhausted bodies. They were no longer on Crescent Moon Island. Then, Dahei saw the broken tree that had taken root and was emitting life energy. It immediately showed a human-like expression of surprise on its monkey face and immediately bowed toward the tree. Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin were confused. However, they could see how important this tree was to Dahei, so they did not disturb it. After a while, Dahei finally recovered. It slowly stood up and walked to Lu Kuan's side. Its monkey face showed a serious expression. It also bowed down with its palms facing up and handed them to Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan was confused. However, Xiao Jin seemed to understand something and naturally touched Dahei's hands with its monkey paws. Only then did Dahe stand up again with a smirk. Lu Kuan was confused. However, he was even more confused. Dahe, it's only been 50 years. What happened on Crescent Moon Island? There are traces of human cultivators fighting on the island. There are sea bears nearby. Also, are there only your tribe members left on the island? Senior. Hearing this, Dahe's monkey face suddenly showed a sad expression. Its big black eyes gradually became misty, and it began to explain with a whimper. This black mountain ape had absorbed Lu Kuan's blood essence in the past, so Lu Kuan could understand what it was saying. In addition to Xiao Jin's explanation, everything that had happened on Crescent Moon Island over the past few years was gradually revealed. When Lu Kuan left, the old gibbon ordered all the black mountain apes to move deeper into the island. At the same time, it did its best to help the 8 peak Class 4 black mountain apes evolve. Just like that, 3 years passed peacefully. Out of the 8 black mountain apes, 4 of them had become Class 5 demonic beasts, which made the old macaque overjoyed. Even Blackie thought that it would be good enough for 2 of them to make the breakthrough. Just like that, the black mountain ape's strength increased greatly. Other than the old gibbon who was Class 7 and the middle-aged chimpanzee who was Class 6, there were a total of 7 Class 5 black mountain apes, including Dahe. The strength of these higher-ups was equivalent to 9 core formation stage cultivators. They were comparable to some of the bigger sects in the Chu country. Even if the sea bears wanted to attack, they would have to think twice. Just like that, Crescent Moon Island returned to its original range of activity. Many black mountain apes could move around the island. The stronger ones could even wander around the nearby sea. In Dahe's words, they ate all kinds of fruits on the island 8 times. After another 8 years, some of their clansmen suddenly began to disappear. At first, they did not notice anything. However, when a Class 3 black mountain ape disappeared, the old gibbon became alert. He thought that the sea bears were doing something to them. As expected, not long after the old gibbon restricted the tribe's activity to the inner part of the island, the sea bears appeared outside the island. If it was just the sea bears, even if they were Class 8 black mountain apes, the old gibbon believed that it could handle them. However, it did not expect that 2 groups of human cultivators would appear together with the sea bears. Each group of human cultivators was led by a nascent soul stage cultivator. There were also quite a few core formation stage cultivators. Even though the black mountain apes were much more powerful, their opponents were several times stronger than them. Sensing the strength of their opponents, the old gibbon did not hesitate to give the order to fight to the death. This was because it noticed that there was a huge restrictive light screen around the Crescent Moon Island. When Dahe said this, his face showed a sorrowful expression. At the same time, he pointed at the mysterious tree that was full of vitality. Woo woo woo. Lu Kuan had a strange expression. He mumbled, "This is the sacred item of the black mountain apes, the demonic soul tree?" Dahe nodded and clenched his fists. His lips were pale and he made a woo-woo sound. His expression was very sullen. Turned out that on that day the old gibbon did not allow Dahe to go out and fight. Instead, it used a secret technique to let him enter the space under the demonic soul tree. Other than the 3 tribe members with high aptitudes, there were also many young apes. The old gibbon gave the order to Dahe and the others to only protect the lives of the young apes. They were also not allowed to absorb spiritual energy. In this way, under the protection of the demonic soul tree, even a nascent soul stage divine sense would not be able to detect their existence unless they were of the same tribe. Then, the old gibbon used a secret technique to cut off the demonic soul tree on the ground and went out to fight the human cultivators and the sea bears. Roar! Dahe rubbed his red eyes and roared unwillingly. Lu Kuan was silent after hearing that. He could imagine that Dahe and the others had been using their demonic soul force to protect the little monkey's life. That was why these little guys were still alive but did not grow up. As for what happened after that, Dahe did not know. However, based on the situation at that time, the old gibbon and the other black mountain apes might have been wiped out. Two groups of human cultivators and sea bear beasts. The only reason they're working together is because of benefit. For human cultivators, the black mountain ape's fleshly body is a huge treasure. But there's no need to mobilize two nascent soul cultivators. Lu Kuan pondered. That's right. Back then, Zhai Xingzi from the Star Moon Pavilion was hunting black mountain apes nearby. Plus, Dahe described the restriction that enveloped the Crescent Moon Island. That group of people could very well be cultivators from the Star Moon Pavilion. Hearing that, Dahe's eyes flashed with hatred and he roared nonstop. Lu Kuan's face was serious. He said to the extremely agitated chimpanzee, Dahe, if you want revenge, you should become a Class 8 demonic beast as soon as possible. Otherwise, not to mention the human cultivators, you can't even deal with the sea bears. Dahe clenched his fist. His heart was filled with hatred for the annihilation of his tribe. However, after hearing Lu Kuan's words, he gradually calmed down. Dahe's intelligence was higher now. After experiencing the annihilation of his tribe, coupled with the fact that he had been slowly maintaining the vitality of his young tribesmen in the dark underground for more than 20 years, he understood his responsibility as the chief, which was to continue his tribe. Chapter 520. Seeing that Dahe had calmed down so quickly, Lu Kuan was a little surprised. He patted Dahe's arm and said, I can't guess the other group of humans, but according to the old senior, the sea bears are after the treasure of the black mountain apes. Don't tell me it's the demonic soul tree. Lu Kuan looked at the mysterious tree. Hearing that, Dahe looked at the small section of the tree that was exposed on the ground with a sacred look and began to explain. According to Dahe's description, the demonic soul tree itself was a top-notch treasure. Its biggest function was to help ordinary beasts awaken their spirits and increase their intelligence. Because of this, countless demon clans would take it as their own. As for the black mountain apes, they treated it as a sacred artifact. It must be known that not all demon beasts in the world relied on demon chi to activate their demon beast talent. Most of them gained intelligence by chance and were gradually influenced by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, automatically absorbing the spiritual chi into their bodies. The awakening of ordinary beasts' intelligence was completely dependent on luck. However, the demonic soul tree could increase the chances of awakening intelligence. If any demon clan had such a treasure, it could be said that the clan would have a stable development. No wonder the Sea Bear clan has two high-level demon beasts lurking outside the island for so many years. They want to get the demonic soul tree. Lu Kuan said with a little realization. Woo-woo. Dahe continued to explain. Lu Kuan's eyes lit up and immediately asked, You said that the sea bears only know that the black mountain apes have a lot of demonic soul wood, but not the demonic soul tree. Could it be that the demonic soul tree has some other magical effect? Woo-woo, it turned out that the demonic soul tree had a certain nourishing effect on the divine sense after a certain age. The old ape had said before that it could make a breakthrough, but its lifespan was nearing its end, and it could not withstand the manifestation thunder tribulation. Because it had lived beside the demonic soul tree for a long time, its soul was on the verge of transformation. As long as it made a breakthrough, it would immediately awaken its divine sense. It was also because of the existence of the demonic soul tree that the old gibbon's spiritual intelligence was so high that it could even speak human language at the level 7 stage. In other words, the demonic soul tree could subtly increase the chances of a level 7 demonic beast breaking through. The sea bears knew that the old ape had a lot of 10,000-year-old demonic soul wood. Even the soul tree had the magical effect of awakening intelligence. If there was a large amount of it, it could also nourish the soul. As long as it could help them, any demon beast would try their best to obtain it. Although the demonic soul tree, the demonic soulses, the The demonic soul tree had been nourishing it, had been nourished by the demonic soul, did not nourish it, had the demonic demon, had nourished its had. The demonic soul tree's energy was used to maintain its life force, and the other effects it brought were much worse. This was also the reason why the old ape had stayed under the demonic soul tree for a long time. Other than relying on the demonic soul tree to nourish its soul and increase its intelligence, it also used its limited demonic demons to nourish the sacred tree in an attempt to maintain its vitality. The sea bears did not suspect that the old ape had a living demonic soul tree. Only powerful demons with large amounts of demonic aura could raise a demonic soul tree. Lu Kuan pondered. According to what you said, Dahe, a 10,000-year-old demonic soul tree alone could nourish the soul and divine sense of a demon beast above the 8th level. Then it would be useful for human cultivators as well. After all, at that level, a demon's divine sense is not much different from a human's. Could this be the reason why the two groups of human cultivators besieged Crescent Moon Island? Thinking of this, he suddenly had a thought. He took out a wooden bracelet from his storage bag and examined it with his divine sense. He realized that it had a similar aura to the demonic soul tree in front of him. This wooden bracelet was a treasure given to him by Uncle Zhang of Mount Luyang. The reason why he had such a strong and condensed divine sense was because of this mysterious wooden bracelet. Even if he had entered the treasure bone stage and reached the peak of the core formation stage, he could still feel the help this wooden bracelet provided to his divine sense during cultivation. Could this wooden bracelet be made from 10,000-year-old demonic soul tree? Just as Lu Kuan was feeling puzzled, Big Black, who was at the side, began to whine again. It began to ask where this place was and why there was so much Yao Qi. It even said that the Yao soul had directly recovered its vitality. Before Lu Kuan could explain, Xiao Jin patted his chest and explained to Dahe. After a while, the remaining adult Black Mountain apes also woke up. Their first reaction when they opened their eyes was the same as Dahe's. They looked at the little monkey around them. After making sure that the little guys were fine, they looked around again. Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin had stayed on Crescent Moon Island for a long time. Other than Lu Kuan, the other two apes also knew Lu Kuan. After hearing Xiao Jin's explanation, they knew that they had escaped from the dangerous place and fell asleep again. After a while, two streaks of light shot over. It was Zhu Xiaofeng and Qin Yushu. Dahe was alarmed. Haha, Dahe, these are my two senior martial brothers. Don't worry. After saying that, Lu Kuan went up to greet them. Zhu Xiaofeng had already noticed the gorillas and the little monkey below. He asked curiously, Junior martial brother, are these the Black Mountain apes you mentioned before? Lu Kuan nodded and said, That's right. I once promised their elders to bring out some of their people, so I arranged for them to live in this demonic aura area. As for the destruction of Crescent Moon Island, Lu Kuan did not plan to tell Zhu Xiaofeng and the others that it involved the overseas demonic beasts and nascent soul cultivators. The two cultivators naturally saw that these demonic beasts were not in good condition, but they did not ask too much. They knew that Lu Kuan had the bloodline of the long-armed giant ape, so it was normal for him to take in the Black Mountain apes. Besides, they could also sense the aura of Dahe's Class 5 demonic beast, so they were happy to increase the strength of Crescent Moon Island. On the other hand, Qin Yushu kept staring at the half-broken demonic soul tree trunk on the ground. He frowned and asked, Junior martial brother, what is this? Lu Kuan did not hide anything and explained the effects of the demonic soul tree. Qin Yushu's eyes lit up and he said, Junior martial brother, isn't this demonic soul tree tens of thousands of years old also a type of spiritual wood? It can be used as a material for spiritual treasures. Lu Kuan shook his head and sighed. I thought so too. Unfortunately, the demonic soul tree has just been nourished by a large amount of demonic aura, so its life force is too weak. I don't know how long it will take for it to fully recover. Qin Yushu sighed and said, That's true. It's a pity that such a 10,000-year-old spiritual wood with special abilities is too rare. Hearing this, Lu Kuan suddenly looked at the wooden bracelet on his hand and muttered, "Senior Marshal Brother, if we're talking about spiritual wood, this one in my hand should also be considered a type." Qin Yushu and Zhu Xiaofeng's divine sense had just probed the bracelet when they felt a cooling sensation. They couldn't help but cry out in surprise. "Junior Marshal Brother, is this made from a complete demonic soul tree? It actually has such a special effect on the divine sense." Chapter 521. Qin Yushu and Zhu Xiaofeng were speechless. They couldn't sense anything special about the demon soul withered tree as it had just recovered. However, Lu Kuan's wooden bracelet was different. It was definitely a treasure that had a huge effect on improving one's divine sense. All cultivators, regardless of whether they were cultivating, fighting, refining, or making talismans, relied on divine sense. The stronger one's divine sense was, the more helpful it would be for them. Zhu Xiaofeng carefully sensed Lu Kuan's wooden bracelet and the half of the withered tree not far away. He said in shock, "The aura of the two is very similar. In addition to what you said, doesn't this mean that after the demon soul tree fully recovers, it also has the special effect of increasing one's divine sense?" Lu Kuan also realized this and said in surprise, "If the demon soul tree has the same effect on human cultivators' divine sense, then Demon Spirit Island really got a top treasure." Qin Yushu said with a disappointed expression, "It's a pity that the ancient records of the Yang clan that recorded a large number of heavenly treasures were lost. Otherwise, we would definitely be able to find detailed information about the Demon Soul Tree and Junior Brother's wooden bracelet. With just the two of us comprehending the remaining ancient records of the sect, although we have the help of the sentient puppet technique, it's still a bit difficult to refine a treasure like Junior Brother's wooden bracelet into a sentient Dharma treasure. Ah, if only Brother Gu was here." Lu Kuan sighed softly and said, "Senior Brother Qin, after settling the Black Mountain Ape, I will go to the Abyss City. After that, I will go around recruiting third-generation body cultivator disciples. At that time, I will return to Wei Country and see if I can find out the whereabouts of my two senior brothers." Then he handed the wooden bracelet to Qin Yushu and said, "As for this wooden bracelet, I'll have to trouble Senior Brother to spend some time studying its material." With the help of the wooden bracelet, Qin Yushu said with a bleak expression, "Among the disciples of the weapon refining peak, in terms of weapon refining technique, other than Master and Martial Uncle Zhu, Senior Brother Gu Tianjian was the strongest. If Brother Gu hadn't spent so much time and energy on the art of refining, I'm afraid that he would have entered the core formation stage as well. If Senior Brother were here, the two of us wouldn't have to waste so much time and effort to figure out the simplest way to refine a psychic magical treasure. It's a pity that Brother Gu is older than Senior Sister Du. Even if he managed to escape, if he didn't enter the core formation stage, I'm afraid." Lu Kuan was silent. Everyone in the Yang clan knew about Gu Tianjian's talent in designing magic tool blueprints. Even when his martial uncles were refining psychic magic treasures, Gu Tianjian had participated in it. Zhu Xiaofeng was originally a little excited, but when he heard Gu Tianjian's name, it also dimmed down. After a long while, Lu Kuan opened his mouth and said, "Senior Brother Zhu, after I settle these Black Mountain Apes, the next most important thing is to recruit third-generation body cultivators. I heard from Senior Brother that you also want to find the next generation of disciples for the treasure pavilion. Why don't we set off together?" Zhu Xiaofeng nodded. "Junior Brother, just let me know before you set off. I'll go back and make some preparations." Qin Yushu put away Lu Kuan's wooden bracelet and said in a deep voice, "Junior Brother, don't worry and go. I feel that I've reached a bottleneck in my divine art. While studying this mysterious spiritual wood, perhaps your divine sense will have a breakthrough. Junior Brother, let me know before you leave." We'll go back to our cave residence first. After saying this, the two of them shot back the way they came. As for Lu Xiao, he had been in seclusion refining magic treasures and wouldn't come out for the time being. After they left, Lu Kuan began to settle the Black Mountain ape. First, he set up the last large-scale formation in his storage pouch outside the dense demonic qi forest. This formation's power was ordinary and could only withstand attacks from qi condensation cultivators. Lu Kuan only did this to mark off an area so that ordinary beasts couldn't enter. As for Dahe and the other Class 3 monster apes, they could easily enter and leave with a slight attack. As for the interior of the forest, it was naturally left for Dahe and the others to modify. After Xiao Jin's description, the other adult Black Mountain apes already knew the special features of this island. They were very excited and couldn't wait to become Class 8 monster beasts and destroy the sea bear. With the Demon Soul Tree as the center, Dahe and the others built some simple dwellings around it, intending to settle down near the Demon Soul Tree. Those little monkeys also woke up one after another. Originally, in order to extend the lives of these little guys, Dahe and the other monster apes could only provide them with the lowest consumption of demonic qi and keep them in a sleeping state. After the little guys woke up, except for a few who had gained intelligence and were ignorant of what happened to their tribe, most of them didn't know what was going on. They jumped up and down in the forest filled with demonic qi and let out cheerful cries. This made Dahe and the others feel a little better, especially Dahe. It was even more convinced that only those with the bloodline of the ancient monster apes could lead the Black Mountain apes to glory. Now, this precious land was found by Lu Kuan, who had the bloodline of the giant long-armed ape, and also revived the monster soul tree. The flesh and blood of the two sea bears weren't as vigorous as his. They couldn't help him in refining his body. Chapter 522. A few days later, in the deep abyss market, a thin, ordinary-looking man dressed in a gray robe was shuttling through the crowd. He emitted a faint fluctuation of mana of the early stage of the Foundation establishment stage. He was inconspicuous among the cultivators coming and going. The gray-robed man seemed to need to buy a lot of things. After half a day, he strolled through a small street and then walked into the last shop on the street, the Treasure Pavilion. For so many years, the Treasure Pavilion was quite famous in the deep abyss market. Almost all the rogue cultivators would come to this shop to buy magic tools, and even some sect disciples would patronize it. As soon as the gray-robed man stepped in, he heard a few cultivators chatting inside. Ah, it's sold out again. A few years ago, this treasure pavilion actually didn't make more magic tools except for the monthly replenishment. I was just delayed in the outer sea for a day and it's sold out. From my experience, this treasure pavilion's people know how to do business. In the past, when there were enough magic tools, the business was not so good. After the monthly replenishment, it was sold out again and again. Let's not talk about it. I have to go to the other treasure pavilion to choose a defensive magic tool, or else the next time I go out to sea will be dangerous. Fellow cultivator, let's go together. I also want to buy a flying knife magic tool. Seeing the two rogue cultivators hurriedly walk out, the gray-robed man showed a bit of a thoughtful expression. Then he looked inside the treasure pavilion and found that the shelves in the shop, except for low-grade magic tools and some common tokens, were mostly empty. As he heard, the good magic tools were all sold out. Next, many cultivators came in one after another. Seeing the empty shelves, they all retreated with some annoyance. The gray-robed man casually strolled around twice and simply chose some commonly used magic tools. He paid the mortal of the treasure pavilion and then left the treasure pavilion, looking no different from an ordinary cultivator. After he left the treasure pavilion, he immediately walked into the cultivator's restaurant across the street. He said a few words to the qi condensation cultivator on the first floor and then went to the second floor. The first floor of this restaurant was the hall, the third floor was a private room prepared for the core formation cultivators, and the second floor was all private rooms specially prepared for the wealthy foundation establishment cultivators who wanted a private space. Every private room had an isolation formation. Even a core formation cultivator wouldn't be able to find out what was going on inside. Under the guidance of the chi condensation cultivator, the gray-robed man walked straight to the largest private room. There were many vague silhouettes inside. One of the people in the private room seemed to have noticed the arrival of the gray-robed man and opened the restriction on the private room. As expected, fellow Taoist has come. Please come in for a chat. A rather deep male voice sounded from inside. The gray-robed man smiled and walked in. Then, the restriction on the private room was closed again. The waiters of the restaurant also left. The dishes in the private room had all been served. The guests on the second floor would talk about secrets, so there was no need for the waiters to stay. After the gray-robed man entered the private room, his eyes swept over the other 5 men and women. Then, he looked at the middle-aged man in the lead. He cupped his fists and said, "Long time no see. Fellow Taoist Zhao's cultivation has improved greatly. He is not far from the middle stage of core formation." The middle-aged man didn't answer. Instead, he carefully looked at the gray-robed man. Finally, he looked at the gray-robed man's golden eyes and said with a frown, "I heard from these little guys that you have broken through. You are indeed different from before. Even my spiritual sense can't find any flaws." The gray-robed man was Lu Kuan, who had changed his appearance. The one talking to him was Xiao Hongfei, who had been staying on Abyss Island. As for the other men and women, they were Zhao Qingtian and the others who had changed their appearances and came to Abyss City first. Lu Kuan smiled and said, "Although there were some twists and turns, I successfully broke through." Xiao Hongfei's expression changed slightly when he heard him admit it. One must know that Lu Kuan had fought with him when he was in Foundation establishment. His self-created body cultivation method had a terrifying combat strength that far exceeded his own cultivation level. Now that he had entered core formation, he was probably much stronger than him. Thinking of this, Xiao Hongfei said in a bad mood, "Since you have broken through, your strength is not inferior to mine. This treasure pavilion doesn't need me to guard it anymore." Lu Kuan coughed lightly and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, in fact, I came to Abyss Island this time just to confirm a few things. I will leave soon. Without fellow Taoist Zhao's word, I am not at ease." Xiao Hongfei frowned and said, "What kind of enemies did you provoke?" "Zhu Xiaofeng and I were a little vague about it. In the past few years, there have been as many as 3 core formation rogue cultivators who have come to provoke us. From what I can sense, there are many spies around the treasure pavilion, observing the treasure pavilion." Lu Kuan pondered for a moment and said, "In fact, there is nothing to hide. These people are most likely from the miraculous gate." Xiao Hongfei's pupils shrank and he sneered, "So it is the miraculous gate." Then, he looked at Lu Kuan and said meaningfully, "Fellow Taoist Lu first sent his disciple to scout for information and then personally came to meet with me. Could it be that you want to make a move against the people from the miraculous gate? Fellow Taoist has entered core formation. I am afraid that you have the means to kill early core formation cultivators." Lu Kuan shook his head and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao misunderstands. I do not plan to make a move for now. Before, when I walked around the market, I noticed that the people who were watching the treasure pavilion were all Foundation establishment cultivators. Plus, Qing Tian and the others didn't notice anything when they arrived." His expression was calm as he said, "It is safer for me not to make a move. Since my fellow apprentices have not appeared, the people from the miraculous gate might think that we are dead." Previously, Lu Kuan had disguised himself as an ordinary cultivator and strolled around the street of the treasure pavilion. He had secretly observed the spies and found that they were all cultivators of the Foundation establishment stage. After thinking for a while, he decided to maintain the status quo. A few years ago, they killed Huang Mei and the other 2 core formation cultivators. According to his understanding of the miraculous gate, they would definitely send people to investigate. However, due to the lack of information, the miraculous gate would never think that the remnants of the Yang clan were able to kill 3 core formation cultivators in one go. The deaths of the core formation cultivators would probably be blamed on other people. At this time, if he and Qin Yushu didn't appear, the miraculous gate would have the misconception that some of the remnants of the Yang clan were also dead. In this way, the miraculous gate would suspect that other forces intervened and stole the sentient puppet technique and killed their core formation cultivators. As for Du Ruoqiao, who was still in the treasure pavilion, the miraculous gate would be able to find out her position in the Yang clan, as well as the fact that she didn't have much lifespan left. Lu Kuan paused and continued, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, in fact, you also know that we established 2 sects, the Treasure Pavilion and the Body Refining Pavilion. The Body Refining Pavilion naturally cultivates my body refining technique, and the Treasure Pavilion is a sect that purely refines artifacts. I don't know if fellow Taoist is interested in becoming a guest elder of the Treasure Pavilion." Xiao Hongfei frowned and was just about to refuse when he heard Lu Kuan continue, "As a guest elder, fellow Taoist doesn't need to be stationed in the Abyss Market all the time. Fellow Taoist only needs to be in name. Every time we make a move, we will pay a sufficient price. Moreover, we will pay the rent of fellow Taoist's cave residence in the Abyss Island. In the future, fellow Taoist won't charge any fees for refining artifacts. That's right, Senior Marshal Brother Qin and I have just comprehended the refining method for sentient magic treasures. As long as fellow Taoist has enough materials, we can refine any sentient magic treasure." Chapter 523. You guys can really refine psychic magic treasures, Xiao Hongfei said impatiently. Lu Kuan revealed a faint smile, but did not explain further. Seeing this, Xiao Hongfei was even more convinced. In his heart, this guy in front of him was able to refine psychic magic treasures when he was in the Foundation establishment stage. After entering the core formation stage, it was completely reasonable for him to be able to refine psychic magic treasures. He was struggling in his heart. In fact, in recent years, he had wanted to get rid of this burden. Previously, he was able to stay on the Abyss Island for so many years because he needed to spend a lot of time nurturing the complete set of psychic magic treasures in his body. Now that several decades had passed, the power of his heaven and earth ring was gradually showing. He believed that it could now compete with a late-stage core formation cultivator. With such a good magic weapon, he naturally spent the rest of his time looking for all kinds of fated chances to advance his cultivation level. Although his magic power had improved over the years, he was still far from the middle core formation stage. In the cultivation world, there were many core formation stage cultivators, but most of them were stuck in the early core formation stage for their entire lives. Currently, the fastest way Xiao Hongfei could think of to improve his cultivation was to go to the outer seas to kill 5th-level demonic beasts and obtain a large amount of demonic cores. This way, he would be able to refine some medicinal pills to improve his cultivation. With his body that had never taken medicinal pills before, he could almost completely absorb these medicinal pills. His efficiency was much higher than other core formation stage cultivators. After all, if he wanted to enter the nascent soul stage, it would be impossible without medicinal pills. Xiao Hongfei used the ancient method to enter the core formation stage. He already had a series of cultivation plans for the future. He would rely on the strength of the core formation stage to hunt as many demonic beasts as possible in the outer seas and refine large amounts of medicinal pills to improve his cultivation. Therefore, he was in a hurry to leave the Abyss Island and go to the outer seas to hunt high-level demonic beasts. With a complete set of psychic magic treasures, even if he encountered a 7th-level demonic beast, he would still be able to fight. However, Lu Kuan's psychic magic treasures were extremely tempting to him. As an outstanding disciple of the Shang-Qing sect, he naturally knew the significance of psychic magic treasures to core formation stage cultivators. If he had a powerful psychic magic treasure, Xiao Hongfei even felt that he would be able to defeat ordinary Class 7 demonic beasts. He could even easily kill Class 6 demonic beasts, which would greatly increase his efficiency in the outer sea. Lu Kuan looked at the hesitant Xiao Hongfei, as if he knew what he was thinking, and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, in addition to spirit-channeling magic treasures, if you go to the outer seas to hunt high-level demonic beasts in the future, I can go with you. If the two of us work together, our efficiency will be extraordinarily high. As for the spoils of war, the Yao core will be yours, and the rest will be mine." As he spoke, light flashed in Lu Kuan's hand and a jade bottle appeared. He tossed it over. Xiao Hongfei took the jade bottle with a puzzled expression. He scanned it with his spiritual sense and exclaimed, "A grade 6 Yao core." Then, he looked at Lu Kuan with a puzzled expression. Lu Kuan chuckled and said, "I obtained this Yao core from a sea bear when I was passing through the outer sea. I will give it to you as a gift." Xiao Hongfei felt the aura inside the Yao core. He thought for a moment and immediately said, "Okay, since fellow Taoist Lu is so sincere, I will accept. I will be your treasured Tool Pavilion's guest elder." With his spiritual sense, he could obviously see that this Yao core was very fresh. It was obviously killed recently. Thinking about Lu Kuan's fighting style, Xiao Hongfei made a prompt decision to agree. This was because he remembered that this guy, who created his own body cultivation method, fought in close combat. With such a person in the front, he could control his magic treasure from the back and kill demonic beasts without any risk. One must know that when Lu Kuan was in the foundation establishment stage, his strength was comparable to a grade 4 demonic beast. His body could withstand a pseudo-magic treasure. Now that he was in the core formation stage, Xiao Hongfei even suspected that this weak body in front of him could withstand the might of a magic treasure. Fighting together with such a guy, needless to say, would be much more efficient and safer. In this case, he only needed to think about how to find high-level demonic beasts. Xiao Hongfei organized his thoughts and said, "But fellow Taoist Lu, if we work together, let's divide the Yao core equally. After all, it is the main ingredient for body cultivation pills." Lu Kuan shook his head. "Fellow Taoist, you might not know this, but for my cultivation method, ordinary medicinal pills are useless. However, the flesh of high-level demonic beasts is quite useful for low-level body cultivators. Furthermore, their skin, hair, and bones are also excellent materials for refining weapons." On the side, Zhao Qingtian and the others heard Lu Kuan's words and their eyes lit up. They felt this point very clearly. As soon as Lu Kuan returned to the Abyss Market Square, he met them and let them try the sea bear meat. Ordinary cultivators had very ordinary bodies and were unable to absorb the essence of qi and blood in the demonic beast meat. However, body cultivators were different. They could absorb the energy and increase the speed of body refinement. This grade 5 or 6 sea bear meat even had a great effect on blood condensation stage cultivators. Although the supplementary effect was much worse than poison, it was better in that there was no risk. The significance of this to body cultivators was self-evident. Xiao Hongfei didn't understand the reason, but combined with the similarities between Lu Kuan and demonic beasts, he somewhat understood and silently nodded. Soon after, a brass square token appeared in Lu Kuan's hand. He said, "This was refined by Senior Marshal Brother Qin and the others. It is the token of an elder of the treasured Tool Pavilion. In addition to indicating one's status, it has many other uses." After he finished speaking, he tossed it to Xiao Hongfei. Xiao Hongfei's refining skills had increased by a lot. With a simple probe of his spiritual sense, he discovered that this token was actually a magic treasure. He couldn't help but be a bit surprised. Lu Kuan saw his surprise and said with a smile, "This is just a simple defensive artifact. The materials used are ordinary, and it can only release a powerful defensive shield. However, the advantage is that it can be used after simple refining." This token was a magic treasure that Qin Yushu had researched over the years based on the previous psychic jade pendant. Although its power was far inferior to a psychic jade pendant, it was very practical. Xiao Hongfei silently put away the token and the jade bottle. He realized that becoming an elder of the treasured tool pavilion was a very good decision. "Haha, brother Xiao, we will be family from now on. Right, I heard that the immortal jade wine here is very good. Lu, here's a toast to brother Xiao. And you guys, hurry up and toast your martial uncle Xiao." Xiao Hongfei. At this time, in the Chu country's southern marsh province, a graceful woman with a veil covering her face was flying in the air. She was the middle core formation stage cultivator sent by the miraculous gate, Fairy Ling Yutong. Her heart was very complicated. A few years ago, she relied on the soul tool in her hand to find the one-line sky behind Bluestone Town and found the place where Huang Mei and the others died. After careful investigation, she found some traces of traps and even sensed the remnants of demonic qi left by the explosion of her junior brother's golden core. In her mind, she outlined the scene of them being lured here, unable to escape, and finally having to detonate their golden core. Then, Ling Yutong went to the Abyss Island. According to the information sent by Huang Mei to the sect, she encouraged several core formation loose cultivators to probe the treasured tool pavilion. Then, she recognized Xiao Hongfei, who had amazing strength on the battlefield. She could even feel that Xiao Hongfei's tyrannical aura was not inferior to hers. This made Ling Yutong think of the Shangqing sect. She didn't know that Xiao Hongfei had become a loose cultivator and thought that all of this was the work of the Shangqing sect. So, she returned to the miraculous gate immediately and told Martial Uncle Lu, who knew that Martial Uncle Lu would be silent for a while and tell her to ignore the deaths of Huang Mei and the others and focus on the treasured tool pavilion, find Lu Kuan, and bring back the psychic puppet technique. Chapter 524. Wei Kingdom and Chu Kingdom were neighbors, separated by a land of death in Song Province. There was a steep mountain peak that towered into the clouds like a sharp sword in the northern snow. The mountain peak was like a natural barrier. There was no mountain path to go up. If one wanted to go up the mountain, they could only climb it with their bare hands. On this day, snow filled the sky and the cold wind was bone-chilling. The official road not far from the mountain peak was covered with a thick layer of snow. A group of people and horses were walking slowly on it. Looking from afar, there were about 40 people in the group, led by a man and a woman. They were wearing thin robes, and their necks and wrists were exposed to the air. It was as if the cold weather had no effect on them. If one looked carefully, they would find that there was a layer of faint light around the man and woman. The snowflakes would disappear as soon as they got close. There was not even a snowflake on their robes. The man and woman both carried a standard long sword on their back. They looked very ordinary, but they exuded a faintly discernible sharpness. Obviously, they were not ordinary. The 3 young men behind them also carried long swords on their backs and wore thin robes. However, they did not emit a shield and allowed the snowflakes to fall on their clothes. However, the snowflakes would melt every once in a while. Their aura was much weaker than the man and woman in front of them. Behind these 5 people, there were more than 30 young men and women. Most of them were between 15 and 20 years old. These people could not stand such cold weather. They were all wrapped up like dumplings, and there was a lot of snow on their heads and thick cotton-padded clothes. Although these young men were shivering from the cold, they still gritted their teeth and followed the 6 people in front. In this group of young men and women, there were 3 older men and women who did not fit in with the rest. The leader was a tall, middle-aged man dressed in black. However, his right arm was empty and only his left arm was intact. This one-armed man looked calm and his eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life. He walked with steady steps and followed the group unhurriedly. His clothes were thin, and he allowed the snow and cold wind to hit him without moving. Behind the one-armed man was a young woman with a scar on her face. She was wrapped in a white fur coat. She originally had a beautiful face, but with the contrast of the scar, she looked ferocious and repulsive. Even some of the young men next to her looked at her with disdain. The young woman seemed to be accustomed to these gazes. She walked quietly with her right hand on her waist, holding the handle of a long knife. If one observed her eyes carefully, they would find that the young woman had always maintained a vigilant gaze. Her walking posture indicated that she could draw her sword at any time, which was enough to deal with all kinds of surprise attacks. Beside the young woman, there was a big man with a fierce face and a cloak wrapped around his body. Just like the young woman, this big man had a vigilant look in his eyes. He carried a red tasseled spear on his back, and there were some bloodstains on the tip of the spear. The trio's strange behavior caused the surrounding youths to distance themselves from them. Other than disdain in their eyes, there were also looks of disdain and disdain. However, there was an ordinary-looking young man who would occasionally look at the 3 of them with a strange gaze. "Third madam, 4th brother, relax. With the immortal masters of the heavenly sword sect here, there won't be any danger," the one-armed man suddenly said in a hoarse voice. His voice was not loud, and it was almost inaudible in the wind and snow. However, the young woman and the big man's ears were very sensitive. They heard the one-armed man's words, and their expressions relaxed slightly. At the same time, the man walking at the front of the group frowned slightly and said softly, "Marshal Nephew Lu." Following closely behind, a young man with a sword on his back immediately stepped forward and bowed. "Marshal Uncle Guan, what are your orders?" The man surnamed Guan said, "Those 3 older men and women were brought by you, right?" "Yes, Marshal Uncle." The man surnamed Guan said strangely, "You should know the rules and standards of our sect. They are so old. Unless their spiritual roots are extremely high, it is impossible for them to be accepted into the sect. Are their spiritual roots rare?" The young man with a sword on his back smiled bitterly and said, "Marshal Uncle, except for the woman who has spiritual roots of 4 elements, the other 2 men have spiritual roots of 5 elements. The man surnamed Guan was even more puzzled. "Then why did you bring them here? Don't you know it is a waste of effort?" The young man with a sword on his back scratched his head and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Marshal Uncle Guan, in fact, these 3 people saved my life. I brought them here to repay them. As for the rules of our sect, I am aware of them. But the 3 of them insisted on being checked by the Marshal Uncle in charge of recruiting disciples." The man surnamed Guan said softly, "You actually had mortals save your life. No wonder you are still in the 9th layer of Qi, refining all these years and can't enter the late stage." The young man with a sword on his back said awkwardly, "At that time, I happened to encounter a mid-level 1 black patterned leopard, and both sides were injured. These 3 mortals just happened to pass by and killed the monster with their superb martial skills." Although the young man with a sword on his back didn't speak loudly, except for the young man behind him, the others all heard him and showed some contempt in their eyes. The man surnamed Guan, on the other hand, was used to it. He looked at the young man and shook his head with a sigh. "You are such a disgrace to your master. You can't even deal with a small black patterned leopard and have to rely on mortals to save your life. I really don't know why Senior Marshal Brother you accepted you as a disciple." The young man with a sword on his back looked embarrassed. With these 3 mortals' aptitudes, according to the past, they can only be servants at most. But this time, the one in charge of recruiting disciples is Senior Marshal Brother Linghu. I'm afraid they have no chance. The young man with a sword on his back panicked when he heard this. After knowing that Senior Marshal Brother Linghu was in charge, he immediately regretted bringing these three mortals. Hey, we're at the foot of the mountain. Marshal Nephew Guan, tell these little guys the rules. Junior Marshal Sister and I will go first. After saying that, the man and the silent woman next to him formed a seal with their hands. The long swords on their backs were unsheathed and flew to their feet. Under the guidance of the sword light, the two people shot towards the towering sword peak in front of them. The young men and women in the group seemed to have forgotten the cold at this time. They stretched their necks and looked at the immortal-like man and woman flying on their swords with envy. At this time, the young man with a sword on his back cleared his throat and said loudly, "The next test is for you. As long as you climb the 100-feet-high platform of the Sky Sword Peak and reach the entrance in half a day, you will pass the first test. But if you don't reach the entrance in time, no matter how high your aptitude is, you can only be a servant disciple." After saying this, the young man with a sword on his back quickly urged the long sword on his back and impatiently flew towards the peak. The other two young men had strange expressions and whispered to each other. They also glanced at the three people behind them. Obviously, they had heard the words of the young man with a sword surnamed Lu. A dignified middle-stage Qi condensation disciple of the Sky Sword sect was actually saved by mortals. They would probably become a laughingstock in the sect. Shaking their heads, they also flew away on their swords, leaving behind a group of young men and women with pale faces staring blankly at the steep Sky Sword peak. "Third madam, fourth brother, let's go quickly. Although Brother Lu said the hope was slim, we still have to try. Only by entering the Sky Sword sect will we have a chance." Seeing the five immortals leave, the one-armed man said in a deep voice, "Yes, big brother." Then, the three middle-aged men and women took the lead and jumped towards the peak in front of them. They were agile and the steep stone wall was not difficult for them. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.